Good morning, everyone. Always nice to see a full house. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting. It is Tuesday, October 10th at 9:03. If you could all please join me for a moment of silent reflection, or silent prayer. All right, thank you. And our Ag Commissioner is here today, so will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I know I didn't talk to you before, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Thank you. I should have mentioned that to you earlier, but I was up here and I looked at the farm to fork crop report. I was like, you know what? Since she's here. All right, clerk of the board, you'd like to do a roll call, please?
Supervisor Canepa?
Here.
Supervisor Villapudua?
Present.
Supervisor Patty?
Yes.
Supervisor Ding?
Good morning.
And Chairman Rickman.
Here. All right, clerk of the board, I'm going to turn it over to you for our recognitions and presentations.
Thank you. Our first recognition this morning was requested by Paul Canepa of the 2nd Supervisorial District, and this is recognition of the Stockton Portsmen Barbershop Chorus. And I would like to invite representatives of the Stockton Portsmen Barbershop Chorus to the podium as I read this recognition. The certificate of recognition is presented to the Stockton Portsmen Barbershop Chorus in recognition of your invitation to perform at the 80th anniversary of the Normandy invasion in France in 2024 as an example of how you exemplify the values of harmony, unity, and community spirit through your exceptional musical performances. Furthermore, your continued showcasing of incredible talent at events such as the Bob Hope Fox Theater, Friends of the Fox Classic Movie Series, Stockton Porch Games, Stockton Heat Games, Asparagus Festival, Lodi Grape Festival, Celebrate America at Hutchins Street Square, Veterans Day celebrations, and the installation of new officers for the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Department displays your continued dedication to the preservation and promotion of the art of barbershop harmony, which has touched the hearts of all who have experienced the pleasure of your performances. The San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors extends its deepest gratitude for your many years of service to the community. Presented this 10th day of October, 2023. Chairman Rickman.
Thank you, Rochelle. Good morning, and thank you for being here. And I know Supervisor Canepa brought you forward here today, so I'm just going to turn it over to him.
Well, I was at the Village Barber 70th anniversary, and our paths crossed, and I thought it was really cool what you guys do. And then you told me how you were getting invited to go to Normandy celebration, so I thought it was only appropriate that we come and honor you guys. They're doing some fundraising, so if anybody could help on that end of it, but I thought we would have you guys for a certificate, and if you could sing us a song, that would even be better. Whatever, huh? You guys ready for that, or what? Huh? Can you do something? Huh? Can you pull one out? Do you need the micro? Do you need it up? Or here we go. Here, some of you guys can have this side.
Since we're still at the beginning of the meeting, how about the national anthem?
Perfect.
You're singing bass, I hope.
Of course.
Okay. Sing this way or that one? This way.
You know what? Yeah, sing that. Nobody wants to look at it.
I'll take these of those. We all warmed up?
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare off bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh,
Thank you so much. So who wants to speak and give us a spiel on what you guys are doing and how you're doing it? So thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. And
My name is Al Walter. I'm the president of the chapter. The chapter is a member of the Barbershop Harmony Society and has been since 1955. So we are one of the older choral groups in the greater Stockton area. We forget all the stuff that we do until you hear the litany of all the stuff that we've done. So we are pleased to be joining or to be accepting the invitation from Music International, Music Concerts International, to go to France. We are raising funds to help offset the cost, even though the cost is really, from my point of view, really economical. It's only like $5,000 a person for 7 days airfare, and great. But we have some younger folks that we need to sing with us that is a little much for them. So we're trying to raise some funds for that. We're going to have Nancy Hennifer, our immediate past president, and the chairman for our On to Normandy fundraising. So we're going to have a fundraising event November the 9th.
Chairman, I'm sorry, if she could speak into the microphone so that people watching can hear.
You can't hear my PE teacher voice? November 9th at Van Ruten Winery, we're having a gala with hors d'oeuvres and auction and entertainment. And, well, at least you'll all be invited. We also have a Christmas show coming up on December the 9th. It'll be at Zion Lutheran Church. It's a Saturday afternoon at 2:30. Sure to please get ready for the season. We are also selling holiday harmony grams, which means you can call a phone number, check our website, stocktonportsmen.org, and for a small fee, you can have a quartet sent to a family member, a friend, a business, a restaurant, a golf course, wherever, and we will sing a couple of holiday songs. Makes a great hostess gift, by the way. What am I leaving out? I'm just going to leave some information over here, I'm thinking. And anyway, thank you for inviting us. And Supervisor Canepa, it was a pleasure to meet you over at the barber shop, and I was the one that doggedly followed him around until I could get his attention. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to the board here real quick, and we'll start with Supervisor Ding.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Al. How are you? Added to that list is the barbershop quartet during the holidays singing through my restaurant, too. It's been a privilege and a pleasure. Al, you have talked to me about the fundraising expenses a couple of weeks ago. I can't think of anything more honorable than sending you over representing us, so I'm looking forward to helping out, looking forward. And that Zion Lutheran Church is Lodi. Stockton, Zion. Okay, on the 9th, to clarify that. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ding. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. I really have to appreciate the commitment, and without computer-enhanced voice technology, you guys really embrace the art with enthusiasm and such a great positive reflection and intonation with the music. So we really appreciate all that you give to the community. Good luck in all the competitions, and thanks for coming in today for a recognition. We truly appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, Supervisor Patty. Vice Chair Villafudua.
Thank you, Chairman. I was at the barbershop also. No, you guys did one amazing job. Thank you for everything you do for our community, and you're a true blessing to the community, so thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and I'll wrap it up. And hey, what a way to start the county supervisor meeting, board meeting, right? And so thank you very much for your dedication, and hopefully people here watching today, if somebody wanted to help you guys out, where would they go?
StocktonPortsmen.org. StocktonPortsmen.org.
All right, you heard it here at the Board of Supervisor meeting. Let's help them send to Normandy, and thank you for representing San Joaquin County and the city of Stockton. All right, Clerk of the Board, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Next, we have the proclamation of October 2023 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in San Joaquin County. And this was requested by Tom Patty of the 3rd Supervisorial District. And I would like to invite Dr. Anita Williams, Chief Nurse Executive at St. Joseph, and Art Hill, Director of the Cancer Center at St. Joseph's, to the podium as Supervisor Patty reads the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and welcome. Glad you're able to be here. I'll read this proclamation. Let's see. Actually, Madam Clerk, I'm without my glasses. Could you read the proclamation, please?
Proclamation reads, whereas according to the World Health Organization, breast cancer became the most common cancer globally in 2021. And whereas approximately 1 in 8 women and 1 in 833 men in the U.S. will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. And whereas only 5 to 10% of breast cancers are linked to gene mutations inherited from one's parents, and 85% occur where there is no family history, aging increasing this risk. And whereas mothers who breastfeed for more than a year reduce their risk by 26%, however, only 35% of U.S. mothers nurse their infants for a year as recommended by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas there are several types of breast cancers, which are divided into non-invasive and invasive types, which can be diagnosed at different stages of development and can grow at different rates. And whereas the American Cancer Society establishes Breast Cancer Awareness Month in 1985 to promote mammography as the most effective weapon in the fight against breast cancer. And whereas between 1989 and 2020, there was a 43% drop in breast cancer death rates, which is largely attributed to early detection and treatment. Now therefore be it resolved that this San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim October 2023 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in San Joaquin County, and supports and encourages efforts which will improve the health and well-being of all of our citizens. Presented this 10th day of October 2023. Griffin?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you'd like to say a couple, looks like you have something prepared and some information to share. We appreciate it.
I do. There we go. First, just good morning and thank you for the invitation today. I'm Art Hill. I'm the director for the Cancer Institute. Officer.
To the microphone, please.
Okay. How's that? Good. All right. We wish to express our gratitude to the boards of supervisors for their commitment in raising the awareness about breast cancer. Your recognition of this critical issue is truly commendable, and it highlights the importance of early detection to save lives. Awareness is the first step towards success. Your support in advocating for breast cancer awareness throughout the community can empower individuals and encourage them to seek medical attention timely. By spreading the knowledge, we are fostering an environment of understanding and compassion. Breast cancer affects millions of individuals. However, through collective efforts, we have the power to make a significant impact. By increasing awareness, promoting regular screening, we can detect breast cancer at its earliest stages. And when we identify early, treatment options are the most effective. By recognizing breast cancer, you've shown that our community stands united against this disease. Your support instills hope in the hearts of those battling breast cancer and reminds them they're not alone. Again, I want to express my gratitude to the Board of Supervisors for your recognition of breast cancer. Your commitment to raising awareness and promoting screening is a testament to your dedication to public health and the well-being of our community. I want to thank you.
Thank you. And Doctor, please.
Sure. And I just like to share the number one killer for women is heart disease. And the number two is cancer. And when we dissect cancer, breast cancer is the number two reason why a woman will succumb to cancer in the country. And if we really look at it, what's happening in our county, 1 in 39 women are going to be diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I would be remiss if I didn't share that. And so again, we extend our gratitude and thank you all for recognizing October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Thank you. And we'll turn to the board real quick for any comments. Supervisor Ding.
Thank you. I don't think there's a family around that hasn't been touched by this. And I would also, since we're doing Breast Cancer Awareness Month, remind the men it isn't just a disease that affects women. I remember when former mayor of Galt, Tony Gora, passed away in late 90s, stage 4 breast cancer, and it kind of shocked all of us because we didn't know that that was even a possibility. So thank you for all the work you do.
Supervisor Villaputa.
Thank you, sir. Well, I appreciate you guys coming down here and talking about it. Awareness is a big deal. I think we've all been affected by it. My family has, and we really need to put a spotlight on it. And so, thank you for coming today.
Supervisor Canepa.
One of the best parts about my job is that, well, I mean, it's kind of hard. The health plan of San Joaquin just bought a mobile screening unit. The board agreed to that, so it was a used vehicle. But I mean, that's always the thing, is getting people screened, because a lot of people, they go to the doctor and then they're supposed to go have the mammogram and they don't. So any other ways that we can get more people screened and catch it sooner than later, I think is huge. So I think the CMC, obviously you guys are from St. Joe's, thank you for the work that you do there, but it's just exciting that we're able to do that with money. And I think it was from Texas that they bought the mobile screening unit. And so I don't know when it's coming, but I think that's the most important thing, because people of lower socioeconomic often don't get the screenings that they need. So if we can make it convenient to where they're at clinics and they can get, go for their mammogram and then directly go outside, I think is a huge plus for our community. So more coming on that sooner in the future about how people can get mammograms through Health Plan of San Joaquin. So it's pretty exciting, and thank you guys for coming and bringing awareness. Appreciate it.
Before we turn it back over to our chairman, just say that we appreciate the effort at Dignity, Common Spirit, and the entire health network here. We know that a lot of women, because of COVID, were not able to do some screening tests, and I'm sure there's an effort to get them scheduled and back in, because that early detection does matter, as noted by the supervisors and anybody here in this audience. There's been vast effects of people. I know some young mothers that unfortunately didn't survive treatment, and others that have successfully been detected and gotten some great treatment, and they're alive and well. So thank you for the efforts. We appreciate that you're here. I'll turn it over to the chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Patty. Yes, again, please, thank you for being here. And you can see you're wearing pink. Pink is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The color, I know that's something near and dear to my heart, and I think everybody in this room has had a family member or knows somebody who has been diagnosed with breast cancer. I know my grandmother passed away. In fact, I remember as a kid going to St. Joe's and, visiting her. And so it's something that is on my mind, every single day, and it should be in the minds of everybody here in San Joaquin County. And you being here today, talking about awareness and mammograms, it could and it probably will save somebody's life. I mean, go over there. I mean, even if you're not sick, please, you have to get checked out. How often should you get checked? I mean, what's the age limit and when you should and shouldn't and so on?
At age 40, it should be.
So age 40 annually. Again, thank you very much, and God bless.
Screening every single month. So for women that are childbearing age, you want to screen around your menstrual cycle, so every month. And then I can't let this comment go that Board of Supervisors Ding shared. Breast cancer does affect men. It's just it's very rare, so 2 to 5%. Men will dismiss the nodule or the lump that they're feeling. So I think it's very important for men to also assess themselves. And if you feel something, you need to explore that. So thank you for sharing that.
Great information. Thank you again. Would you please join us up front?
Our next recognition is an initiative that was started by Chairman Rickman this year to recognize our first responders at the first meeting of each month. And this month's recognition is brought by 3rd Supervisorial District of the Chaplain Service of San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office, Manteca Police Department, Stockton Police Department, and the Stockton Fire Department. And I would like to invite Senior Chaplain Jesse Kenyon, Chaplain Kevin White, Chaplain Terrence Saffold of the Stockton PD, Fire Chaplain Larnie Pineda of Stockton Fire, Chaplain David Morris and Chief Stephen Schuler of Manteca PD, and Senior Chaplain Bill Barnett, Chaplain Russ Clifford, Chaplain Ed Henderson, and Chaplain Mike Strong of the San Joaquin County Sheriff. And also I'd like to invite Bishop Dr. Andrew Watkins.
Would you please come forward and give an opening prayer for ourselves here in San Joaquin County in gratitude, and to look over and thank our chaplains.
I want to thank you all for all your hard work that you do. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we ask for blessings right now and covering for all these men and women, all these chaplains that work so hard in our county and our cities. We ask you to bless this body as we come together, two or more gathered in your name. Bless them indeed, enlarge their territory. Cover them and protect them from all hurt, from all harm, and from all danger, from seen and unseen attacks. We ask you to grant them wisdom, access, favor, and again, your continuing blessings. In the name of Jesus Christ, we humbly pray. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop. Appreciate that. Before I read the proclamation, well, I guess, Madam Clerk, read the proclamation. Thanks.
Certificate of recognition reads, in recognition of exceptional dedication as volunteer first responders, providing invaluable support through the delivery of pastoral care and psychological assistance during professional and personal challenges faced by the department's sworn and non-sworn personnel, as well as their families and the community members coping with tragic events. Your willingness to offer 24/7 crisis intervention at emergency scenes, engage in search and rescue operations, lead funerals, provide crucial follow-up service to families, and conduct hospital visits is truly exemplary. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for your outstanding devotion to San Joaquin County, presented this 10th day of October 2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I thought as we're doing first responder recognitions at a recent Rotary meeting, we had a guest speaker from, as a chaplain came in and just started to talk about and share all that the chaplains do as first responders and participants, often on the scenes of some difficult and challenging moments, especially for individuals, those that serve here in our county, as well as families and people that are affected by some heavy trauma. I pulled some information from the San Diego Union Tribune newspaper, and I want to share some of this information. Why a first responder chaplain's work is so important. A first responder chaplain's life means unpredictable, 24/7, 365-day demands characterized by raw emotions and adrenaline-churning emergency calls, interspersed with quiet moments sitting beside traumatized firefighters, police officers, and sheriff deputies. In the span of a few days, a first responder chaplain's work might include accompanying a team of forensic detectives to exhumation to ensure the dignified treatment of a murder victim's body, ensuring that statements from Orthodox Jewish women are collected respectfully by female officers, offering comfort and counsel to shattered firefighters who are unable to resuscitate a drowned baby, reviewing the actions of fire captain second-guessing his commands to the crew fighting a fatal fire, or a law enforcement officer making immediate life or death decisions. It's big print, it's not very long. Lots of things go wrong in the world, and with evil and nasty things happening every day. Those called to this kind of work must be willing to assist members of fast-moving, diverse teams of professionals who hold various beliefs and have different lifestyles, while listening carefully without the judgment and maintaining strict confidentiality. That may mean accompanying a police officer as he or she informs parents of their child's death in a tragic accident, or silently supporting firefighters, paramedics, and victims at a horrifying fire. People who go into law enforcement are always exceptional. They are altruistic in wanting to make a difference in the world, but their job takes an emotional toll and over time can have a debilitating effect on one's family and personal well-being. There's often a wariness towards chaplains until they build a rapport and a trust with the team. Co-workers help by listening, offering resources, and adding a perspective. First responders respond to trauma is the same as a community member. They are human beings. First responders responding to trauma is exactly the same as a community member. They are human beings, fathers and wives and husbands, sons and daughters. But their jobs mean they must keep moving. It may not occur to them until they have a moment alone that an incident really bothers them. Our attitudes towards chaplaincy have changed, and peer support today is considered vital for first responders' health. The personal sacrifices they make are heroic in our eyes, but it comes at a high cost to their emotional well-being and to their families. First responders' culture is not to show a vulnerability, but they are human beings and they need support. I'm proud to be able to bring this kind of recognition to all of our first responder chaplains representing the 3rd District. For all that you do, and to all of your peers, that you continue to serve in our county and overlook many of our officers or police and fire that are here today and our deputies. We thank and truly appreciate you. A couple people might want to come forward and say a few words.
I just wanted to share, I'm Bob Morgan, Senior Chaplain, Stockton Fire. I just wanted to share that in the fire service, every time that we complete a call on a fire engine, the captain will get on and he'll say, Engine 9 AOR. And that means available on request. Chaplains are always available on request. We just have to be called by the officers, by the firefighters, and we're going to be there. I just want you to know that that's why I'm here. So,
appreciate that.
The men and women of the first responder communities are incredible people. You mentioned the word altruism, one of the highest and most noble attributes in our society today. Unfortunately, the amount of ill that they see, the trauma, the malfeasance, it carries a huge toll on their lives. We oftentimes thank them for their service, and we do that because of some spectacular act that they perform, but what we forget is what they carry out of those acts. As chaplains, we're privileged to walk alongside of them, and when we gain their trust, we're privileged to know the demons that they fight, the dragons that they slay. And by the grace of God, we're able to come alongside of them and provide them healing and peace. So it's a great privilege to be able to respond as a chaplain, and I don't think there's a single chaplain out there that feels like they're completely capable of taking care of what's ever in front of them if it was not for God going with us, walking alongside of us, and coming along behind us. Thank you much for the acknowledgement today. It's really nice to hear that we're recognized, but it's certainly not why we do the job. So thank you very much.
Bill Barnett from San Joaquin County. We just represent a whole lot more. There's a lot more people and many chaplains, and so we appreciate you recognizing us, but for the whole community. We also have the ability to represent faith and hope, and that's what we intend to do. I appreciate the county board for, especially as the county, how much you support us. I think most of the men and women who are chaplains do so voluntarily. And so the hours that they put in, the time that they spend, it truly is a labor of love, and it's a labor of hope. And so they do so out of a heart that says we want to help. And so we appreciate that, appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
My name is David Morris. I'm Manteca PD chaplain, and I have a 7-year-old, and I found out last week he'd been going to school telling his friends that his dad was a police officer. And I said, hey, we need to correct that. I'm just a chaplain. And I bring that up as both a humorous story, but also I'm grateful for this recognition. My primary purpose and our primary purpose is to support so many officers that are doing crucial work in our communities, and I'm so thankful for the men and women who serve our communities with excellence. And if we can provide any kind of support and help, even in small ways, then we want to be able to do that for those who are serving all of us so very well.
Anybody else? I'll turn it to the board. All right, thank you. Start off with Supervisor Canepa.
I just want to thank the men and women that take their time. I was fortunate enough to go the San Joaquin Sheriff's Chaplaincy. Phoenix Roofing had a fundraiser golf tournament for them, and then it was ironic that I was able to go to Stockton PD Chaplaincy at First Baptist because, you know what I mean, to do the work, you actually do need money, like we were talking earlier, and so for people that have given, it's huge. The time and energy, though, that you give, not only for the victims, but for the staff and the people, the first responders that have the stress that they deal with. So you guys are a blessing, and I appreciate what you do, and the time and energy that you give back to our county makes it a better place to live. So thank you very much.
Supervisor Vipudwa.
Thank you. I was at the golf tournament also, and happy to support you guys. I know you have a tough job providing support for our officers and arriving at a scene of a crime, a scene of an accident, and it's a tough job, and I appreciate everything you guys do for our community. Thank you.
And just real quick before I go to Supervisor Ding, I hope that you can all pray over Supervisor Villapudua. I saw him change his golf score. Supervisor Ding.
I don't golf. I just wanted to say thank you for your service and God bless.
And I'll just conclude before I turn it over to our sergeant and chairman of the board. But just being present, sometimes a comforting word, a shoulder to lean on, being available, and perhaps even in prayer in some way, shape, or form. We've got officers, we've got those representing the fire departments here, and again, the deputies in every capacity. They appreciate you and all that you give to our community, and we are grateful. And just a little bit of recognition for the work that you do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And to our chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Patty. Thank you all for the work you do. You know, God bless each and every one of you. I know as a law enforcement, a cop for the last 28 years, at least for another month or so before I retire, I know exactly how important you all are to the officers and their family. And when people, you know, we can talk about law enforcement and the firefighters and all the stuff that they go through and the medical and so on. But one thing you don't hear about is the faith side. And a lot of it, to get through what we see and what our officers and our firefighters see, you can't find it in a doctor's office. You can't find it in a pill. You find it through faith. And, you know, that goes exactly to their families too. So thank you, you know, for what you do. And there's mention about car crashes and some of the stuff that, you know, our first responders see, but what you see, the aftermath, it can be just as bad, the broken families, the pain that you see, and that pain carrying on for years. And you have to deal with that, bear that burden also. So thank you very much for your strength. Thank you very much for your dedication, and God bless each and every one of you for the job that you do for our officers, our firefighters, their families, and their community as a whole. If you could all please join me up front.
Let's call one at a time, so everybody come out for one group photo.
Well, let's go Stockton Fire Department. Let's start.
Stockton Police Department, jumping.
Okay, I think I might need your glasses. And Manteca Police Department and our San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. right, that concludes our recognition and presentations. It's always great to start the morning with positive things from our community and positive folks from our community. And we're going to move on to our public comment or consent items.
Chairman Rickman, we do have the presentation of the crop report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just focused. I'm going to turn it over to our Ag Commissioner then. Well, you know what? Let me start here. I'm sorry. I just skipped right over it. It's an oral presentation by the San Joaquin County Agriculture Commissioner of the 2022 crop report. And we have our Ag Commissioner, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good morning, Chair Rickman, members of the board, CAO, and County Council. I am pleased to be here today according to the section 2272 and 2279 of the California Code of California Food and Agriculture Code. I'm pleased to present the 89th annual crop report for San Joaquin County's agriculture production. So this year's theme for our crop report is Farm to Fork. It's an important highlight because Farm to Fork is the way of life. San Joaquin County is home to 3,430 farms, and we grow over 150 different commodities. These diverse crops is what makes us very unique in the state of California. Farm to Fork is a platform to provide locally grown food to our community members. Either is it through 9 different farmers market we have in the county, or an edible schoolyard project you will read about in the crop report, or visit Stockton's Feast at the Fox event, which shows appreciation for the locally grown food. We at the Agriculture Commissioner's Office link our growers with the community members through the direct marketing programs so they can sell their food here locally, and the communities have a way to connect with the people who grow their food. So this year's total agriculture production increased by 1.6% from last year, and the total value for 2022 crops was $3,244,671,000. With me today, I have Israel Arambula. He's one of our agriculture biologists, and he's the one who helps to put this crop report together. So I'm going to turn this to him so he can talk about the top 10 commodities for 2022.
Good morning, everyone. So we're going to start off with number 10. For number 10, we have corn silage with, it came in at $88,286,000 with an increase of 66% from the previous years. The increase was due to some of the drought that we had, so some of it price was a little higher than the previous years. Number 9 was hay all, coming in at $113,322,000 with a 65% increase from the previous years. Also had to do with some of the drought that we had. Number 8 was tomatoes, coming in at $114,174,000 with a 61% increase from the previous years. That one, the increase had to do with some of the more acreage that we had during the year. Number 7 came in as cattle and calves at $128,954,000, a 16% increase from the previous years. And number 6 was walnuts, coming in at $145,997,000 with a percent decrease of 60%. The decrease came due to the fact that we had a lot of hot days. Some of the walnuts were cooked inside, and so production was low, and some of the walnuts weren't good enough and the quality was low, so that's why the decrease in price. Eggs came in at number 5 at 174,580,000, with a percent decrease of 16% from the previous years. And that was due to a lower production of eggs throughout the year. Number 4 was cherries, coming in at 279,998,000, with a percent decrease of 13% from the previous years. Almonds came in at number 3 at 397,177,000, with a percent decrease of 12%. Grapes came in at number 2, 421,061,000, with a percent decrease of 2%. And our top number 1 commodity for the year was milk, with a coming in at 626,472,000, with a 41% increase from the previous years. So our top 10 commodities, even though we had five commodities that came in at a lower than the previous years, the top 10 commodities still made up 76% of San Joaquin County's total agricultural production, coming in at 563,755,000.
Thank you, Izzy. One of the things to note here is the figures represents gross values of agricultural commodities rather than the net return to the growers. And you saw that a lot of commodities decreased from the 2021 years, and that shows you that farming is becoming really difficult because either it's the natural disasters like floods or drought. The pricing is also decreasing on a lot of commodities. In 2021, our number 1 commodity was almonds, which fell to number 3 this year. So that shows you how our growers are being affected. I also want to take an opportunity to go over some of the programs Agricultural Commissioner is responsible for. The top one being our export program, where we issue certifications for our commodities so they could be sent worldwide. In our top 5 exports with number of certificates issued, walnuts was number 1 with 3,733 certificates. Cherries, we always have a big cherry season, and it's all dependent upon this weather. And in 2022, we were able to do 3,169 certificates for the cherry crop. For almonds, we issued 2,911 certificates. And rice, a lot of people ask how much rice is grown in San Joaquin County. We do not have much of our acreage, less than 300 acres or so. But a lot of rice gets exported through Port of Stockton. So we issued 114 certificates for the rice shipments and 110 certificates for the onions. These are the top 10 countries by number of certificates that were issued, with the total certificates in 2022, 12,152. So this does not represent the number of shipments which go out of this county, because some shipments do not require export certificates. So this is only the ones which require certification. Also, another very, very important program for San Joaquin County is Pesticide Use Enforcement Program. And I wanted to highlight some numbers here. Last year, we had a Regional Agriculture Pesticide Amnesty Program in partnership with Sacramento, Yolo, Calaveras, and Amador counties. We collected 4,386 gallons and 8,948 pounds of old pesticides, which growers can't get rid of easily. So this program really helped to collect this old products, which growers were struggling because either the registrations are canceled or this product is no longer required because they have changed the crops they grow. So it was a huge event, and we collected a lot of old product so it could be disposed of correctly, protecting our environment. Another part of this pesticide use enforcement program is our education meetings. You could see there were 13,809 online courses our growers or certified cardholders took, and there were also 951 attendees for in-person meetings. Another program to highlight is pest exclusion. This is a very important program, and a lot of community members do not know that this is our way of keeping pests outside of the county, so our growers do not have to use a lot of pesticides on their crops. So in 2022, the staff inspected 10,716 shipments. Either they were coming through the parcel facilities such as UPS, FedEx, or through trucks or through nurseries. You could see even the sea freight and air freight. We do inspections at all these places. Pest detection, you might have seen in the cities, we place a lot of traps, yellow panel traps or Jackson traps on the fruit trees. And this program actually is a way for us to make sure that none of these pests get established in San Joaquin County. And total number of traps placed for 2022 was 11,850. This program is run by our seasonal employees who are working only 8 months out of the 12 months. But you could see that how many different pests we actually trap for in the county. So Farm to Fork is facilitated by a lot of our farmers market. There are 9 different markets in the cities here in San Joaquin County, and this is the way our growers can sell fresh produce directly to our citizens. Ag Venture is very near and dear to us because this is a way for us to educate our future generation about agriculture. In last year's program, we have over 10,000 students and over 1,000 volunteers who participated in these events. The next event for 2023 is coming up on October 19th in Manteca. And then the Stockton, Lodi, and Tracy events for 2024 are listed up there. And I encourage not just our community members, but also our board members to attend one of these events. Weights and Measures is another program which is very important because this is a consumer protection program, and this is the way we try to make sure that there is equity in the marketplace through inspections of different type of devices. In 2022, we inspected 11,785 devices, either from retail water meters, from railroad scales to computing scales, livestock scales, gas station fuel dispensers, or counter scales at the grocery store. I wanted to thank our partners who provide the information, either it's a Farm Bureau or the Almond Alliance and UCCE. These are the different partners who provide information to us to put this crop report together. A few years back, Agriculture Commissioner's Office started an internship program to involve our youth in preparation of the crop report. So this year, we have an audience, Camille Tanega and Ethan Niemeyer. Camille is a student of San Joaquin Delta College, and Ethan is with UOP, and these students are the one who actually designed the crop report. So this is our way of involving our youth in agriculture. I just want to say thank you to the rest of my staff, and again, the partner agencies who make this crop report happen and highlight the agriculture for San Joaquin County. I'm available to answer any questions at this time.
All right, thank you. I know just spoke to you yesterday at the Ag Advisory Board. One thing you didn't mention is, I think people would be interested, is we have a new dog coming. You expand on that for us?
Yes, on Friday, San Joaquin County got approved for a federal dog team. So I'm very excited to have a canine detector dog team, which one of my staff member will be trained for 12 weeks in Georgia. And then that together, dog handler and the canine dog, we will be working in San Joaquin County, keeping the pest out. They would be going to a lot of our parcel facilities as well as to the neighboring counties to help out. And also, last week, I was chosen to represent San Joaquin Valley at Washington, D.C. We will be meeting with legislatures in March, hoping for funding for our farm bill for these type of pest exclusions program.
Oh, that's great news. I know, I think it was it last year when they had the dog from Alameda County, I think Alameda and Cocoa.
Contra Costa, yes, in January when Undersecretary of USDA was here.
Right, that was cool to see. I mean, it's pretty exceptional. So thank you very much for an excellent report. I'm going to bring it back to the board. I know Supervisor Ding wants to say a few words.
Well, I just want to say how blessed we are with your leadership and your small and shrinking staff. And I just really want to take this opportunity to once again echo my concerns about our department's staffing. We are not competitive in this state. There are 120 individuals in the entire state of California that carry the number of licenses needed to be either ag commissioner or assistant ag commissioner. 58 of those 120 are now ag commissioners. So we really, you know, agriculture is the heart of San Joaquin County, and I really need the emotion and support of this county to equal that. And we need to keep our eye on the ball. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ding.
Thank you, Supervisor Ding. Anyone else? Or I'll go to public comment. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just doing a quick, I know I've pulled this up information in the past, and this is, I believe, an old report talking about over $6 billion with 47,000 jobs in San Joaquin County alone. Maybe next year, actually, I'd like to see all those numbers and get current, because more than just product and agricultural product being sold, that economic value, it reverberates to the entire community with tens of thousands of jobs, and that money circulates through and has such a positive impact. So great report. I know that some of these crops had a market fluctuation, which is difficult, but I know that our farmers are resilient, they're multi-generational, and they're still in business. So we thank you for all the levels of engagement. Excellent report, and as always, great job. Thanks for representing us in such a stellar manner. Good job, team.
Thank you, Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Supervisor Patty. Supervisor Canepa.
Thank you. So Chair Rickman and I attended the San Joaquin Valley Regional Association of California Counties, and what was kind of alarming was one of the gentlemen kept bringing up the fact that selling water now is becoming a huge problem because people can sell their water more than they can make farming. And it was really kind of alarming. The guy kept bringing it up and up again, and there was a state senator and assembly member that came for the forum. And it's kind of alarming. So not only do we have that, is we have a lot of warehousing because of all this e-commerce. So we need to, as a county, decide what the happy medium is and how at the state level you take away people's riparian water rights and selling that for drinking water as opposed to raising crops. So I mean, there's variables that we need to look at as a county on keeping this number huge, which is a huge number. I mean, obviously ebbs and flows of what goes up and what goes down. I mean, with the price of eggs during COVID, I mean, who was paying $6 for a dozen eggs is just absolutely nuts. So those are the things, I mean, and when you say it's gross, not net, I mean, so obviously the profit margins for farmers is slim. So I think we need to uplift them all and figure out a way, what's the happy medium, warehousing, farming. And one of the other things that just came up across is, people doing solar. Well, what farmland do you use and how much do you allow to do solar in the county? If it's taking out vital, resources. So all these variables, I think, is what we need to look at as a county and see, what's the mix, you know what I mean? Because farming is getting harder for everybody to do, and it's becoming kind of corporate. So, you know what I mean? We want to help our local mom and pops that raised, what, $3.2 billion, which is absolutely crazy. So kudos to the farmers that stick it out, but I think there's a bigger picture of what we do with selling water, you know, warehousing in the community, taking farmland out of production. I think are some of the issues that we need to deal with in the upcoming year. So thank you for what you guys do. It's great numbers. It's just sad to see some take hits because those are people's livelihoods. I mean, especially with the nuts, and the global economy for almonds and walnuts is alarming. So we need to, you know, uplift local farmers to make sure that they have a fair competitive advantage. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Vice Chair.
Hey, Chairman. I want to thank you for that report. Well done as always. Doing a great job on this report. I'm worried about the nut farmers, the walnuts, and so forth. I don't know what we can do to help them, but I know that decline is terrible and it's hurting a lot of people. But you know, we'll try our best and appreciate everything you do for the farming industry.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And I don't know if you want to mention, and you talked about weather. I know the walnuts and almonds took a hit. There has been some federal assistance, right, or emergency declarations for some of these crops. Can you expand on that?
Yes, there are some grant funding opportunities. Actually, we just sent out an email we received from Assemblyman Villapudo's office for some local grants that are available. Most of these grant funding programs, they come from the federal agency. So Agriculture Commissioner is actually a platform. We do disaster declaration, and then we provide this information to Farm Services Agency to bridge the gap and to communicate that information to our growers. But these grants or low interest loans actually are very difficult for our farmers to get. So, you know, the hope is that we don't see drought again, or we hope that the regulations are not burdensome on our growers, and we continue to provide that assistance to our growers. The grant funding opportunities, we cannot talk enough in either through a farm bill or through talking to our state legislatures, and we always need help of our local leadership to voice that, and in DC as well as at the state capitol.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time I'm going to open it for the public. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on this item? And
I just have one more comment.
Hold on. Yeah, let's get through public comment here real quick. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Ding.
The Farm Bill in DC, it only comes up once every 5 years. So this is extremely important, and it would be nice if the Ag Commissioner had the staff she needs in order to make sure we're competitive back there. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And I just want to recognize our farm bureaus in the House here, our president. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being a leader in the community, and you and your folks. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. When is that meeting in D.C.? You said once every 5 years. I'm just throwing it out to, through the chair, through Supervisor and or Ag Commissioner. When's that meeting?
It's not an actual one meeting. The local, so Senate members who represent California, the Ag Committee members, either it's Duarte or in our region, we continue to meet with them. The Ag Commissioners meet with them here locally, but then we have a delegation. We go back into DC in March, I believe it's March 16th or so, that we are going together as a group. There are like 10 delegation members, and then we go push for more funding and showing the reasoning behind it, and trying to support the funding here for whole California, not just for San Joaquin County.
Understood. Thank you. So I would volunteer, Chairman, that maybe this, come back to this board, but we might have our Supervisor Ding, who's got years on the Hill and some great relationships. If he could be, I believe he'd be a very valuable asset to a company as we're speaking up on behalf of San Joaquin County. So I think that's something that the board may want to support if Supervisor Ding's up for it and fit into the plans.
I'll bring back the information to Supervisor Ding's office.
All right, great. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Patty. Supervisor Ding?
Yeah, just so you understand how this Farm Bill works, there's titles. You have, for instance, the dairy title, and it's controlled regionally. I'll give you an example. Wisconsin, all they care about is dairy title and the Farm Bureau. So they load it up politically because they obviously need a heck of a lot more help with their weather than we need out here. There's only, I don't know if there's maybe 2 congressmen left that actually will work on this farm bill with experience. Most of the farm bill, believe it or not, most of the people that sit on the ag committee are not worried about agriculture. It's the social programs. It's the school lunch program, et cetera. So when you get a small contingency of ag-related people back in DC talking about the farm bill, it's not like they're coming from all over the country, because most of the members on that ag committee are not there what we traditionally call agriculture. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dean. And I'll wrap it up here. Again, thank you very much. And what Supervisor Dean mentioned earlier, and we kind of spoke about a little bit yesterday, if you're in need of assistance in your department, low staff or some need for personnel in a department, you have to let us know. And, ag is very important to this board. As you can see in our economy, it's the #1 economic engine in this valley, over $3 billion industry. And San Joaquin County, we just don't feed the nation, we feed the world. It comes from San Joaquin, and we should be proud of that, and we got to make sure our economic engine thrives. You mentioned Ag Venture, and I've been to I forget how many I've been to. I try to go every single year, me and my staff, but also 4-H and FFA. I know my daughters both were 4-H and FFA, and we have a lot of their friends were, and FFA, 4-H, and Ag Venture, which leads into that, it prepares our next generation of leaders. And I can tell you that many of the, I guess I keep saying kids, they're not kids anymore, and they're 18, 19, 20 years old. But they're going to schools like Oklahoma State, Sac State, Montana, Idaho, Fresno, Alabama, San Jose, so you can see the great education, the foundation that they get, and how exceptional these programs are. And, I think this board and hopefully our schools, our high schools, realize that. I know I can just speak on my district. I know like Tracy, Ripon, Escalon has a great FFA program and 4-H programs, and also the farmers market. If you want to help out our local farmers, I know go out and, on a lot of them are Saturdays. I know, like, for example, my district, Mountain House is on Sunday. Escalon, Ripon has them. Stockton has them. Go out there and shop local and get the freshest fruit that you can get right off, pretty much what you say, the vine, right? And I know ag is near and dear to me also. I mean, we talked about breast cancer and, talked about my grandmother. But, it was funny because when we were at that conference, Supervisor Canepa and I, and we were just talking about, hey, what's our first jobs and so on, and, being of, Portuguese, and, there's several Portuguese, and what do you think, our grandfathers and our grandmothers and our families were dairies, right? I know I was raised or helped out with my grandma's dairy when we were young. So, but again, great job, and, you have the support of this board. I know you mentioned Supervisor Villapudua. He's he or Supervisor Villapudua and our assembly member. There are all too many Villapuduas in this town, and does a great job in advocating for our farmers and so on. But again, thank you for a job well done, and thank you very much, and thank the students for a great report. And I keep these, handy on my desk so I can refer to it, throughout the year. So again, thank you.
Thank you, supervisors and chair. And we have support of our CAO and HR department. We've been working with them very closely to try to bridge this gap of what's, the salary issues or the reasons behind why we cannot keep our staff here. And also, I just wanted to, thank you, the staff members I have in the audience, because they are the one there who are keeping our department running. So Thank you so much for everything.
You know, on a side note, you know, you think of farmers and, hey, and what a tough job they have. And I just don't understand. I have like one pomegranate tree and something keeps eating my dang pomegranates every year. And I couldn't imagine having a whole entire orchard of those things. But again, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, now the time for public comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors that are not listed on the agenda, and minutes, consent calendar, and closed session items. You do have 3 minutes. We have public comment forms in the back. If you would please fill those out and give them to our clerk of the board. We are going to pull, I know there's several forms for, is it item?
Consent item 6.
Consent item number 6, approval to adopt position opposing the voter choice act in San Joaquin County. So I have it here. I'm just going to hold on to those until we hit that consent item. So if you could just wait a few minutes. So with that being said, again, time limit of 3 minutes. Let's start with the first one, Alex Alfari.
Alex Oliferis. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's still important to promote hand-counted paper ballots, and especially to get the awareness out to folks in San Joaquin County to vote in public, vote on election day. There's a misconception out there that people, they get this absentee ballot, they must fill it out and send it in. No, you could go on the election day and get an actual paper ballot that day and you vote. Of course, you destroy your absentee ballot that you received. That's knowledge that a lot of folks don't know. We need to promote that. You want a secure way of voting, and we could do right now? Do that, please. Allocate money. Get an awareness campaign out there. It is still great that we still need to ban the tabulators, the so-called the voting machines. And that's an issue that is ongoing. And of course, next year we have an election. And I kind of want to bring you awareness of the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. There's a initiative out there put on by groups that want to stop the ever-increasing taxes of California, which make living in California very expensive. And we also do need to protect Proposition 13. It's under attack in Sacramento. They think that everyone has lots of money living in California. And I personally, I'm at that point where, you know what? I'm looking into Florida, maybe other states. It is hard to live in this county. You talk about the American dream. I don't know if there's an American dream left in California for Generation X, and especially I feel sorry for the millennials and the Generation Z, the folks graduating high school. So the TPA initiative plugs a huge new loophole in Prop 13. Misguided court judgments now enable localities to pass new special taxes. That's one of them. Prop 13 requires a 2/3 majority in both the state Senate and Assembly to oppose state taxes. And this is not enough because, guess what? We're paying high gas taxes, high gas prices. How do you guys realize that most of it is state taxes? You all know, you all realize that. You try to tell this to the average Joe on the street, they're like looking at you, huh? Hey, it's California. We're paying some of the highest fees out here. And for what? Just we're paying for the weather? What weather? I could probably go to Florida and pay half of the fees. Yeah, I have to deal with an occasional hurricane, but damn it, but I have a better lifestyle out there.
All right, thank you. Carla. I heard that. It's just, I know I was going to say your last name wrong, so.
Well, and I tried Philapudia, so. Good morning, Chairman and other members of the board. I'm Carla Huney.
It's that E. I always forget.
I know. And I'm a citizen of San Joaquin County. I would like to thank all of you for your reactivation for the San Joaquin County Citizens Election Advisory Committee. Antonio Amador with Supervisor Ding and the members of the committee have been working diligently and timelessly to come up with recommendations to you, the San Joaquin Board of Supervisors. They have listened to several presentations, had discussions, and have voted on one recommendation that's before you today. I will urge you to say okay to their opposition of the Voters' Choice Act. That's why you have an advisory committee, and that's what they have come up with. Please respect their time and effort. And I know they'll be having more recommendations. One of them is, I hope, is a recommendation for the Register of Voters office to be pushing and advertising for voting in person. You approved $2 million for new systems at the polling places, so let's push that so all the citizens and registered voters in the county know that they can go in person. And that is the safest way to vote. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, that's all public comment forums I have, except for the consent item. Anybody else wishing to address the board? That if you just please state your name, I appreciate it.
Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. O my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell, lead all souls to heaven, especially those who have most of the need of your mercy. We in America do not have a government by the majority. We have a government by the majority who participate. All tyranny, which we are now under, needs to gain a foothold is for good people of conscience to remain silent. Thomas Jefferson. I'm here today to speak in a direct opposition to any resolutions supporting anything that has to do with climate smart anything. The word climate has two separate meanings. It does have to do with weather, but it also has to do with public perception. The word smart means anything that our farmers have been doing for hundreds of generations is not working, which is not accurate nor precise. The word climate smart plays directly into what I like to call the greed New Deal with a D, avarice and pride. There's an entire section of this country that thinks that there is the only way of doing what we've been doing for hundreds of years in this country. The main focus of the Green New Deal is to use technologies that cause tremendous environmental detriment to the bee population, which was excluded from the agricultural report. The bee populations are diminishing tremendously. There is a complete ignorance in a lot of our different communities and sectors because of the Green New Deal to avoid this topic. As far as grant money from the federal government, the farmers here are more than capable of putting on their bootstraps and figuring out how to move water. Giving away their rights to any federal entities and taking money or handouts is something that people in the Central Valley have never needed. We're hard workers and we're humble people. And my grandfather once wrote a note to my dad that said, "I'm happy to be able to make a living." All of these technologies are creating what is called a centralized business model, in which someone at the FEMA or CDC or OSHA or some office down in the federal government can take all that information you just divulged and take it from us. They don't want to support us, they're not part of us, and they sure as don't love like we do. I pray every day that you guys continue to strengthen yourselves against this veil that they have provided of security. The greatest risk is to put our people's hands into anybody else's hands except for you five. 1 million people, 3,000, almost 500 farming families are relying on you to stick up against this technology push. It's detrimental to the environment and it is not renewable. It also has a single source toxic waste endpoint that no one discusses. I thank you for your time, and we keep making information available on the private peoples of California to help you educate yourself in these matters.
All right, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Chairman Rickman, Board of Supervisors, Melanie Knott. I reside here in San Joaquin County. Again, did this board implement the Citizens Election Advisory Committee, or why? Why did this board implement the Citizens Election Advisory Committee? Before that committee could get 2 good meetings under their belt regarding significant election vulnerabilities, this board made the decision to purchase more HART machines and more ballot drop boxes for the county, without even considering input from the committee. That deserves repeating, without even considering input or a voice from the committee. And with the addition of more ballot drop boxes, local news media outlets report San Joaquin County has secured their county elections. Please explain how. When previously the sentiment of this board, along with the ROV office, was that San Joaquin County had the safest and most secure elections. Let me be clear, as I've stated many times before, there was and still is election fraud plaguing our San Joaquin County elections. It's difficult to hear and face, but we must not turn our eyes away from the injustice. And make no mistake about it, that's what we're doing here. When we discredit or discount citizens bringing forth grievances about the election systems without a thorough investigation of the matter to unmask crime and or fraud. I'll close with this. Empower and genuinely consider recommendations from the Citizens Election Advisory Committee. Investigate issues in voter rolls. Use only the needed number of ballot drop boxes, preferably placed in police and fire stations. Encourage voter ID, one-day in-person voting. And by the way, did you hear about the missing F-35 stealth fighter jet about 2 weeks ago? Well, I think you might be interested to know the jet is a supercomputer that was allegedly hacked. Go figure. So yes, I'll say it. Get rid of the election machines. Instead, implement a hand count procedure. Together we can do this. Together we can restore San Joaquin County elections. Lastly, in Jeremiah 29:7, let us seek peace and goodwill for our county, its cities, and pray to the Lord, partner with the Lord for our county and cities to thrive in His peace and in His goodwill. Thank you, and God bless you all.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to address the board on items that are not on the agenda? All right, seeing no one, we'll bring it back to the board. We'll move on to minutes and approval of minutes for the Board of Supervisors regular meeting September 26, 2023.
Move to approve. Changes, motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Got a vote, please. All right, it's adopted 5-0. All right, move on to consent items 1 through 21. Supervisor Canepa.
I'd like to pull 1, 6, and 7.
All right, Supervisor Ding.
I'd like to pull item 2 and 8 for comment.
All right, so we got 1, 2, 6, 7, and 8. Anyone else?
I'll pull 4 and 13.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to Supervisor Canepa. Item number 1. All yours.
Morning. I just had one question. Also, when we were down at the conference, we found out that Fresno was an international airport, and I know that the scope of this what we're trying to do here doesn't include that, but I also don't want to exclude it. So I mean, if there's ever any way that we become an international airport and we do this study, how can we include if there's any security extra that needs to be addressed for future, you know what I mean? So I know we're trying to move forward, and I don't think we ever close the door on that, because I think there's tons of opportunity, and I don't know how it didn't happen in the past or if it's available to happen in the future. So if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
With international travel, this particular engagement is planned to focus on what we can do with the existing site. If we were to ever get into international travel, I don't think our existing site would be big enough to handle it. We wouldn't have enough parking, we wouldn't have enough physical space. So we would have to do something in a different part of the airport. So in our planning, we have made provisions for an international accommodations at a different part of the airport as part of a different or advanced terminal project, assuming that we can grow into that. So,
is there possibilities for funding for that in the future? So I mean, what you're looking at is obviously the ability to handle more planes at the same time is part of the plan, right?
What we're talking about now is about 4 gates. We're making plans in 5 years out or so to provide a facility that would have 10 gates. That 10 gate would also have international capabilities. We actually have submitted an airport capital improvement program to the FAA outlining that plan and requesting significant funding.
And what are the chances of getting the funding?
Well, they want to see the activity first. They are not in a position of funding things on the come, so to speak. They want to see us boost our activity. That's what we're focused on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is anybody else from the board, anybody from the public, wish to address the board on this item? Item number 1. Just state your name for the record, please.
Pat Barrett. I just want to address that issue about the airport, because I'm a Southside resident with asthma and COPD and a numerous amount of warehousing that's coming up. I take pictures of Allegiant and Amazon and Fairfield Air Force planes going over my house while I'm hanging my laundry. I get this black stuff. You should see it. You go in the bathroom, you do this to the toilet tank. You're like, oh my God, I breathe this stuff. I have air purifiers on in every room in my house. Whatever this county's looking at on any kind of airplanes, remember, please, we're trying to clean up the air of Southside. We can't afford to have more planes. They need to put this place somewhere else. I'm not sure how it goes because I haven't been following it, but we really need to look at the flight patterns. They have to go somewhere else other than over the residents of South Stockton. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Go back to the board, move on to item number 2, Supervisor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I want to thank all of those individuals that volunteer, their time to be on our advisory committees, panels, commissions, et cetera. They spend their own dollars, they take their time, and people run this county. We get to make policy decisions, but we need all of them. In talking to the clerk of the board, we were talking about it. It really is important, and rather than just throwing names on a consent and going off, that we understand exactly who we're appointing to these boards, and then thank those, that are leaving. So I just wanted to point out who I'm appointing this week. For our Veterans Advisory Commission, Chad Donnelly. Chad is a resident, but he's a former veteran, injured, came back to this county. He's young, he's vibrant, he's active, and I shared a lot with me, so I'm excited to have him there. Workforce Development Board, who better off than our new chairman or president of the Lodi Chamber, J.P. Doucette, who's in the audience with us. Thank you very much for serving. It means a lot. San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District. A lot of people don't know this, but pollution districts are set up in the state by regions because air pollution doesn't travel across county lines, right? So in San Joaquin County, we're lumped in with Bakersfield because Bakersfield's the worst, so they put us in there to kind of balance them out. If you go across the county line into Sacramento, they're under a different air pollution control. They can burn in Sacramento County their fields and their diseased crops. We can't on the other side of the river there. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Having voices of reason from San Joaquin County on this board, excuse me, gentlemen, are very instrumental. And I respect you and thank you. We're going to appoint Jerry Bigby to this position. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on the board? All right, open up for public comment. Anybody from the public? And now bring back to the board. All right, move on to item number 4. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. Item number 4 is proclaim the month of October 2023 as Filipino American History Month in San Joaquin County. For me, Chairman, I think this is more than just a consent item. I'd like to see us perhaps pull this. We can keep it in the consent calendar, but maybe we could. I think it would be best if at our next October meeting we invite some members from the Filipino community to be present for a recognition right here in our county. The Filipino heritage and history in San Joaquin County is very profound. They've worked very hard, both through farms and through business and families and in and throughout the community. So, and I'm not even seeing the language for us to read. It's not on my consent calendar in any capacity for me to read anything. So, I guess it's fine. We can leave it in consent, but I would ask the chairman that we invite someone from the community for the next October meeting. That's
fine.
That sounds good.
We can just put it on the agenda. I mean, we can still do a presentation, so.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Through the chair, there were no representatives, I believe, available for today, and there is an event, I believe, this Saturday. The Supervisor Villapadua's office will be participating in to present the proclamation.
Okay, well, go. Open up for the public. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on this item? And then move on to item number 6, Supervisor Canepa.
Well, I just wanted to bring this forward because I know there's a lot of people that would like to give input. As we go through it, the data comes and it's just more and more confusing for me. So whatever clarity we can bring to the Voters' Choice Act and what we're doing in the future would be much appreciated. So that's why I pulled it.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Supervisor Ding.
Maybe I can add some clarification. So in the state of California, there's certain things that we have no control over here in San Joaquin County, such as the mail ballots that they send every resident of the county. That is a state mandate. We don't have any control over that. The governor just signed a bill into law making it illegal to hand count ballots in elections with more than 1,000 voters. So that is off the table. We can't discuss that. Really what it comes down to, and again, the Elections Commission or committee, I was very proud of them. They spent a lot of time going through this, and the main push here is we have our state mandates. You have your mail ballot elections. You have the 8 required drop boxes plus the other $2 million the board spent 2 weeks ago to add other things, what have you. That's done. But what we really want to focus on, again, is putting polling locations out into the neighborhoods the way it used to be. It does 2 things. It balances out and it gives choice. The voter's choice ought to be no choice. It's really kind of interesting here. Right now, the only choice you really have is to put it in the mailbox. The elections office will tell you otherwise, and I respectfully disagree. When you don't put any effort into citing polling locations, there's nowhere for people to go in their neighborhoods and vote. And so this gives you the best of both worlds. You have the state mandate, so you can vote in the mail, you can vote in the drop box, you can vote downtown, what have you, and you can vote the traditional way, which is to go to your polling location, which has another extra benefit. Getting people out of their houses and being involved in the community. It activates citizen groups. What they do in Solano County, which I've been advocating for months, and I still haven't seen any activity on this from the elections office yet. What they do in Solano County is every group in Solano, Rotary Club, Lions Club, Boys and Girls Club, Music Club, Cheerleading Squad, they adopt a precinct. And they haven't had any problem finding people to manage the polling locations at all. It creates community. And like our boards and commissions, volunteers at the precinct level, it involves the community. And that's how you make a strong community, is by getting people involved. So the VCA, basically what it did is it said, forget the people, forget the polling locations, they will argue otherwise. But it doesn't put any pressure on anyone. It just says, let's just go with this mail-in ballot thing, put the drop boxes, and call it a day. Yes, day of election, it takes work. But what in this county, what have we not learned that doesn't take hard work, that is worth, fighting for? So that's why we're, the committee, who, by the way, voted 4-0, Republicans and Democrats, to oppose the Voters' Choice Act, because the Voters' Choice Act is actually anti-choice. It goes straight mail ballot. It puts no effort whatsoever into polling locations. In fact, it actually it disillusions people from going there.
All right. Thanks, Supervisor Dean. Supervisor Canepa.
So for me, it's just hard because voting is one of those privileges that we get as Americans, and how we do that. I mean, you're a creature of habit, and that's the thing. There's so much uncertainty now. I mean, just from me listening to everybody that gets up and speaks, you know what I mean? I have not a lot of faith in where we're going. I mean, but we have to do this collectively. So I don't know that we need to open up elections for 20 days. There's things that if we did a hybrid, to commingle. I mean, we just heard him say count down ballots, and you just said, no, you can't do it at the state of California level. I mean, so there's so many questions, and how do we do what's best for our community is the most important part to me. I was always the one, and they changed it. I went to Presentation Church for years, and then they moved it. And I mean, as being a creature of habit, you're used to that. And that one day that 90-year-old woman came here, got out of her house and came here, that speaks volumes to what we need to do as a community, not represent just certain aspects of, the conspiracy theorists, voters' choice folks. So what's the blend, So how do we do it going forward to make it something that's, palatable for everybody, not just one group or another? And so I commend the advisory group, because, like the other week we voted on something that they were looking at, and I didn't think that was too hip. Hey, you're going to look at this Thursday, but we chose to spend the money on Tuesday, which doesn't make much sense to me. So for those things, I think, that there's more questions than answers, and I think that's why I brought it up, so that the folks can come and speak to it. But there's things in voters' choice that I don't agree with either, but I'm old schooler, where I went to the ballot box, and then of course during COVID everyone got them mailed, which added more uncertainty. So now where are we at, and what are we doing? And the information aspect, I didn't know we had $2 million to do education. So those are the things we need to get our hands around this sooner than later. So those are some of the questions that I have. There's a whole foray of questions that I have, but I think we'll open it up to the public, if you don't mind, and see what their comments are. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Canepa. I don't see anybody else in the queue, so that's what we will do. We're going to open up for the public for public comment on this item. Again, remember, you have 3 minutes. We do have several public comment forms. We'll start with Pat Barrett and her socks. Her voter socks. Yeah, I like them.
Cute, huh?
They are.
Pat Barrett. All right. As the new person on the Election Advisory Committee and volunteer secretary and a resident of District 1, I was asked to come this morning and give my recommendation on the observation of this committee's findings. First, I would like to say the integrity of our voting system here in San Joaquin has been questioned, and the Voters' Choice Act is at question. In June of 23, this board had voted on tabling the vote for 6 months, bringing it back in January. And Ms. Hale was then going to give a report on data and analysis based on further research. We've only been at this that I know of for 3 months, giving us opinions from the audience and some speakers and some facts from the Sheriff's Department. Some things we have to take into consideration. If voted no, it can come back up every year. Even if voted no, the Secretary of State at any point can change up and tell the remaining counties, which is 27, or let's see, there's 58 minus 30, 28. 30 have already adopted it, which is less that have adopted this act to implement it in our county anyways. Furthermore, this change will not be implemented this election, and it'll take 18 months to adapt. Let me say this. We are here to assist the whole people of the county, not just one small group of people. Saying that, let's look at something simple, which is our school systems. I, believe it or not, went to 12 years of Catholic school. My children went to 12 years of public school, and parts of my grandchildren did charter and some did homeschooling. My point is, what works for the children is what we look at. So which is to say, what works for the people of San Joaquin County. As it stands, since not all of us can go in to vote for one reason or another, we have a variety of voting systems that works, apparently for the majority, since there was only a presence of a handful of people. I find it only fair to ask this board to table it and let Ms. Hale come back to the committee with her findings so that we can have a complete picture. Who knows, she might find it not as good as we suppose it to be, but we won't know until she does her presentation. So again, I ask your consideration and vote to table for the good of the whole county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, move on to Mary Louise Kinnefick. No need to run.
Apologies for my hoarseness, but I'll do the best I can.
Good morning.
Oops, and I lost the. Wait a minute. Quick repair.
You're gonna have to buy that now. You know that, right? You're gonna have to buy that. You broke it.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. Just joking. All right, it's all yours.
Good morning, Supervisor Canepa, Supervisor Ding, Supervisor Patty, Chairman Rickman, and Supervisor Villapudua. My name is Mary Louise Kenefick, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of San Joaquin County. As you know from my appearances before the board in the past, the League of San Joaquin County, like the League of the State of California, supports the full implementation of the Voters' Choice Act through the creation of vote centers throughout the county. We are aware that there are legitimate concerns about some of the trade-offs of this plan, such as the decrease in local polling places, and that the board must weigh alternatives. However, I would like to stress that the chief concern of the League is that all eligible voters should be encouraged to vote, and that barriers do not hinder the full participation of all eligible voters in the democratic election process. We here know that the board is aware that the participation of local voters in elections could improve significantly. Experience in other California counties shows that the implementation of vote centers results in a 15% increase in voter turnout, thanks to early voting and expanded services. I'm aware that the board has received comments about one instance of voter fraud in Lodi. Of course, the League condemns such illegal attempts to subvert our election processes. Oops, sorry. However, there is crime in our county, and we do not hold our law enforcement officials responsible for those breaches of the law, and we shouldn't. Similarly, the Registrar of Voters Office has demonstrated best practices to ensure safe and legitimate elections. Those processes should not be disregarded and assumed to be insufficient based on the actions of one person. We urge the board to continue to support the registrar's ongoing efforts to maintain safe elections while at the same time expanding the access of legitimate eligible voters to make their voices heard at the ballot box or mailbox, as the case may be. We urge the board to support efforts to expand voting opportunities for eligible county residents to promote this basic element of constitutionally guaranteed participation in our democracy. I have 29 seconds. Am I allowed to take off my league hat for a moment and speak as a person?
Oh, of course. You can do whatever you want.
I would just like to say that I participated in the election advisory committee to the extent of going to all of the meetings. Somebody's going to need to glue things.
We got some crazy glue.
And I was shocked to see that under Supervisor Ding's direction, that meeting was very clearly designed only to come back with one recommendation.
You can go ahead. I'm going to add a few seconds since you had some technical difficulties. So
that's enough. I just want you to know that I do not think that this is clearly a circumstance wherein the process was hijacked to get a specific result.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll move on to Margot Pross.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Margot Prowse. I'm a longtime resident of San Joaquin County. I was a longtime employee of San Joaquin County, and I'm currently a retiree of San Joaquin County, and pleased to be here. You, the public, the Board of Supervisors, are a public body, and I came mainly because this item was in the consent calendar, and I was really concerned about that. I think transparency is key in all that gets done, and I really appreciate that it got pulled from the consent calendar because I think the discussion needs to be had. The only item I saw in the agenda was a one-page highlight of what the committee's recommendation was. There are no pros and cons. Well, there was one con. They found that it would be a one-time cost to the county to make the change. But what are the other pros and cons? What did they find? What did the committee, the 6-month, this long committee, find? I was here at the meeting when the discussion was going on. The public was very involved in the discussion way back in, I don't know, January, February, I don't know. And I was shocked to find this in the consent calendar. I only saw it last night about 9 o'clock. I was like, what? What's this? And I don't know how that happens, but I really expect that each of you supervisors need more information about what are you voting on? And I would really like to hear people's rationale for why they vote the way they do. So I really appreciate that you pulled it, and I really appreciate that the discussion is happening. Our key should be to facilitate voting for everybody who is eligible to vote, everybody who has the right to vote. And a one-time cost is not prohibitive. We know that. It shocks the brain when we're talking about almost $500,000. But in the scheme of things for the county, you have to put it into perspective. It's not my home that's putting out $500,000. And I think the comment in the letter was a little offensive, where one of the members was stated as saying, let's save this money, let's spend it on a sheriff detective to oversee the voting process. That may have been a comment that was made. That may have been a joke. I don't think it belongs in your official letter that you're all looking at as to why are we voting on this and how are we going to vote.
Right.
The public wants to hear the pros and cons, and this is too important an issue to keep in the dark.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Antonio Amador.
I think it's still morning. You turn 80 years old, you move down that ramp slower and slower, you know. Now, part of senior citizen group as of October 5th. I hope that didn't take much of my time. Listen, I represent the supervisors, and I'm the chairman, and I might be doing an effective job because now they want to limit the amount of time. I thought I was going to be chairman for life of this voter integrity committee, but it looks like I'm not going to be. The committee got together and they decided that, and I think the vote was 4-1, maybe it was 4-0, that we were opposed to this. And at that time, in its public comment, I think the registrar of voters also was bothered. And so we're recommending that you vote it down. I wanted to make a couple of comments about some of the things that are said here. Maybe we need volunteers that are young and vibrant. All of us that are up here testifying seem to be past whatever age when you're no longer young and vibrant. We, at our August meeting, as I said, voted to vote this down. We've had presentations, and maybe the Board of Supervisors ought to have an update from the committee. And of course, it would take the approval of the majority of that committee for me to speak. I can't arbitrarily and unilaterally tell you my positions on things. We go along and we have votes, which is the way you do things and you run government, which is the right way. You may lose the vote, but you don't run around stomping and complaining about it afterwards. You go with the majority, and you're not always in the majority. But the reason I say you might need an update is there's a lot going on. We've had presentations from the county sheriff's department. We've had presentations from various groups who have made recommendations. The Solano County person was very informative. We didn't get a chance to get back to him, but we have to get back to him. He had good information on volunteer groups and the way we should be in improving and encouraging people to vote. I'm going to give you one example, and I shared this previously. I don't know if I shared it with you, but when I ran for Congress, I was at one of the drop boxes, and at that drop box, a whole tray of votes were dropped into that box. And I looked at the guy, and what's going on? He said, what are you going to do about it? And he looked tougher than me, so I didn't act like I was still LAPD Metro Division. But I asked our registrar of voters, I said, when people deliver a ballot for someone else, don't they have to attest down below, sign that ballot that they've done it? And her response, and it is on record, I'll have to review it, was that I'm going to ignore that. This is too important.
Mr. Amador, unfortunately, everybody gets the same amount of time.
Okay, I'll just end it by saying that she said they don't check those signatures.
All right.
So no one that delivers those ballots even have those signatures aren't even checked.
Thank you, Mr. Amador. Appreciate it. All right, that's all the public comment forms I have. Anybody else from the public wish to address the board on this item? All right, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board for questions, concerns, vote. Supervisor Canepa.
I'd like Olivia Hale to come up and speak to what the importance of is to either keep this alive or where we're going in the future or how we're going to embrace change and how we're going to make our integrity valuable. So I'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Hale.
Morning. members of the board, and Chair Rickman. I'd like to start by thanking the Election Advisory Committee for taking the time to make a recommendation on this matter. I sincerely appreciate their input. I know they've been putting a lot of time in and having additional meetings, and we're very grateful for that. As your registrar, I've directed my staff to continue assessing the potential implications of adopting the Voters' Choice Act in San Joaquin. As more information is reported by VCA counties throughout the state, our research indicates the previously understood one-time cost of $440,000 for per election for voter outreach is actually an ongoing expense. This would be in addition to our current advertising budget of $200,000. So we'd be looking at more than $500,000 every single election. That mailing would need to be mailed every single election is what we've learned. Moreover, some of the counties have found that operating vote centers is potentially twice as costly as managing the traditional polling places. Securing facilities that can function as vote centers over several days has proven to be a difficult situation. So they have to have, in our county, we would need 8 vote centers that are open for 11 days. And then we need to flex to 40 vote centers 5 days before the election in order to achieve that goal. We currently operate with polling places. We had 178 polling locations in the November 2022 location, which is one-day voting. However, despite the challenges and potential increase in costs, the Voters' Choice Act does offer features that could increase efficiencies of polling places model that we currently use. For example, the ability to print ballots on demand would reduce the need for provisional ballots and improve the voting experience for people who mistakenly arrive at the wrong polling place. Because of the potential benefits to our voters, my office is evaluating the possibility of employing a hybrid voting model that combines the familiarity of traditional polling places with the modern efficient vote centers. So what I mean by that, and I had sent a memo to this board, I was scheduled to speak to you in August. The 6-month mark that was spoken about earlier actually was from the February 28th meeting, which meant that I needed to come back in August. You each received a memo from me asking for more time to evaluate because in July of this year, I attended a conference with all the elections officials across the state. And I heard buzzwords left and right about how expensive this vote center model was. I had large counties telling me that if they could go back, they would. That was a huge red flag for me, and so my job here is to do the right thing, and what I hear each and every time regarding elections and what my research brings is I'm supposed to bring that to this board. So I don't know that vote center is a great idea right now. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that we need to look into it, and I had a goal to come January of 2024 to the Election Advisory Committee and give them a full evaluation and presentation. That way they can make their proper recommendation, and then we could come back in April. Of course, whatever they're going to do presenting to you or Supervisor Dean's office if they so choose to present anything, that I would come back in April. I'm okay not to come back. I just want this board to know that I would like to emphasize I stand here to support this board and whatever decision the board makes regarding VCA. We plan to have that analysis done. I would like clarification if at this point we make a decision to not look at VCA ever again. Maybe I don't need a return in April. Maybe I don't need to go to the advisory committee meeting in January to provide that update, and I can have staff change direction. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to working with our community stakeholders. I just want to emphasize a decision is not needed until 18 to 24 months before the 2026 election cycle. I had emphasized back in February that if we cannot make a decision then, we do not want to implement this in 2024, and the Secretary of State's office has an 18 to 24-month implementation plan. We would miss that mark. This would not be something that happens in 2024 at all. So we would need to make a decision by April of 2024 that would affect the 2026 cycle on this matter. Something just to share a little small data I wanted to add. We would need to buy additional a polling place equipment if we went beyond 200 polling locations. We used 101 locations in the state recall of Governor Newsom under a prior registrar. We used 127 locations in the 2022 primary, and then we used 178 locations in the November 2022 election. Data from the 2022 election shows us that each location averaged 93 voters for the day over 13 hours. 61 of the locations that we had less than 50 voters. 14 locations were over 200 voters, and the highest turnout at any polling location was 282 voters, which averaged about 20 voters per hour. On average, the location saw 7 voters per hour across the county. So Supervisor Ding is absolutely right. We do need to advocate and get out there to make sure people know it's an option. But looking at the trending information from past elections, we do not see an increase. And so our goal, and I think Supervisor Ding's office would agree with this, is to advocate. We have $200,000 in advertising. We do billboards, newspapers, and all these different things. We have been very active on social media. We're going to be very huge advocates of pushing that you have the option to vote in person if you so choose, but you also have all of these other options available if you so choose. Either model is going to give us both options if we so choose. It just looks a little different. 40 locations that are open for 11 days over the course, of course, the 8 and then the 40 for the 5 days. Or we have our traditional local neighborhood polling places like we've always done. In the 2020 cycle, we did the VCA-like model because of COVID. As soon as COVID was over, when we did that 2021 election, we actually went back to traditional polling places, and we've kept that model, and we're going to continue to keep that model. Something to point out also about Solano County, because I know we really appreciate their model. He has condensed his polling places down to 70 locations. That way he is able to use community advocates. I've actually had several clergy approach me from different churches and different groups to ask to be a part of having their own polling place. And so I'm actually working on that actively. I do have a list of folks that I'm working on with to adopt a polling place, have their location. But again, just because a church wants it to be their location, they want to have a polling place. If they're not ADA accessible in the correct way, we have a survey we have to do, and they have to meet compliance. We have to be able to mitigate if there are ADA issues. So it's not just a cut and dry. Your garage can no longer just be a polling place because of the slope of the driveway. There's a lot of things that factor into that aren't just, oh, you will all have a polling place and it's good to go. There's a lot that goes into that, and I want to encourage everyone to sign up to be a polling place if they so choose, and then we will send staff out to do the ADA assessment to see if they are available. So I'm all on board with that. I don't see a problem with that. I think for 2024, it's going to be great to do traditional polling places. Let's see what our advertising campaigns bring. Maybe we see a beautiful increase in turnout for that. I will say one last thing in closing. If you look at the Secretary of State's data that they've provided assessing the entire state, percentage of votes cast at a vote center versus polling place, it was 10.92% for traditional polling places and 26.9%. So what we have shown is vote centers do encourage more in-person voting. The data shows us that vote center model counties are getting a higher in-person turnout than counties that are traditional polling place. So that's what I have for you. That's the information I have to share, and I'm open for any questions you might have.
All right, thank you.
One of the questions follow up to that is, thank you for the presentation there. The 15%, so that's the 15% you're talking about. So why is that?
What do you
mean?
mean?
The 15% in the voter's choice allowing only how many?
Oh, how many more, the turnout, the voter turnout.
Yeah, so why does that work?
My guess is that because they're open for 11 days, those that choose to go earlier, they're able to. The fact that there's 40 locations open for multiple days, it gives the voter more time. There's also weekend hours for a polling place. So elections are on Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Yes, many of us have the advantage of having a county job or an entity that allows us to take time off. But you don't get to take time off from raising your children or doing all these things to vote. So I think when people have the opportunity to go do their in-person voting on a Saturday before the election or a week before, that people that so choose can use those earlier options. But there's still 40 locations throughout the county. So it's not like you're being told you can't go to a location and vote in person. But I think the downside to that, and what Supervisor Ding has shared, is what about our neighborhood camaraderie? And I don't know if it's like we're at a point where, like, when you look at Woodbridge or more rural communities, maybe there is an opportunity for the neighborhood to come out and see that polling place. You know, I've talked to residents in South Stockton, and they're like, I don't want people coming to my house. So I don't know where we're at with that, how we can do something that's cohesive for our entire county. And so where I'm leaning is that we should keep the traditional polling place model, but let's use some of the features that they have for VCA. I actually sent a memo out to the state saying, hey, and I'm using some of what you supervising, is it illegal? So I said, hey, if I were to keep traditional polling places and we were able to implement some of these things that they do in VCA counties, like allowing if a voter does happen to show up at the wrong location, can they still vote in person? Do they have to get the wrong ballot? And so we have capabilities now to print them their correct ballot. We don't have to turn them away. We have the technology. It's just because we're a traditional polling place, we're not utilizing everything our equipment does. So we have opportunities there, and I'm waiting to hear back from the state. I sent that to them probably 2 months ago, and I haven't heard back. And my question was, I didn't ask if you guys like this. I asked if it's illegal. So I'm waiting to hear back from them so that I can present a hybrid model to you guys if that's an option. It's just, we're not there yet. We're waiting on that information. And due to election needs at this point, we're focused on the election. I haven't been able to come back to you with that information.
One of the other questions that I have is how many people are actually trained? Because I think that was one of the voter choice benefits, is that you have actually trained people at each location.
So everyone.
How much error is there when you have John Q. Public doing these? I mean, some of the things, because they're not election specialists. So how do we do that? And then how you wouldn't be able to print ballots at 178 locations. So I mean, how would that look if you did do a hybrid?
So the 178 locations you actually can. So those touch writers that we purchased, they actually can print blank ballots. And so if we program the touch writer to have every precinct in the county, as long as we provide good training to the poll workers and we do have a help desk available to them, we can actually print that ballot for the voter. I just don't know if we can get away with doing it, because technically printing on demand and ballot on demand is something that they do in VCA counties. But there's nothing in the election code that says we can't do that. There's nothing that says we can't. And so that's why there's nothing that says we can. There's nothing that says we can't. There's not a single county in the state that's doing this, but there's nowhere in the code that it says we can't. And something from, my colleague John Gardner from Solano County is, it doesn't say we can, but it doesn't say we can't. So maybe we can. And so, I am inspired by some of the information John has shared with me over this time. And I think that it's worth letting the state respond to us, seeing what they say, and going from there. But again, if this board feels very strongly that VCA is off the table, I am 100% in support of whatever it is that you all decide.
So going forward, you were going to bring something back in April?
In April of 24. That's right after the election, after we certify. That's when I planned on bringing it back.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Supervisor Ding.
So I want to thank the president of the League of Women Voters for coming. I think we share the same goal. This is not a we versus them. The VCA, I mean, this isn't a, partisan presidential. It's just what we want is more people included in the election system. The mail system, the mailed ballots, it's already there. It doesn't matter if it's VCA or not. The VCA Act, what it does is it does take the focus off of concentrating on polling locations, so we're not taking anything away. And please take this comment with the humor it is meant. You and Linda Lake just said the same thing, the election's rigged. So on the committee, you said I stacked the committee. Linda Lake saying never mind. Just thought I would have a little fun there. What's on the consent right now is not to do, just because VCA is a state thing. We're a county. We could do everything the VCA, if we decided to, we could do it anyway, but it would be our call. We're not adopting a state platform. We already have state guidelines for mailboxes. What I want to do is concentrate on polling locations. And that's what this consent item does. Let's get VCA off the table and move on with our own program.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Ding. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. And I appreciate our colleague that dove into this issue. We've created an advisory committee. I think Ms. Hale's done a fantastic job engaging. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of concerns, and everybody really wants an honest, fair, true, accurate election process and secure voting. So I love that there's things that you're recognizing, that when you get feedback, people, their proof of concept is telling you things that you may not have thought, that may have looked good on paper, may have sounded fantastic, but all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hold on a second, let's slow walk this. And it seems like that's what we're looking to do. I appreciate it. Again, I thank our colleague Supervisor Ding. one of the ones that volunteered him to be part of this oversight committee and his office to take it on. So Nicole Gehring and Supervisor Ding, you've done a great job. I'm in favor of what our colleague is asking, that we just move forward, and we understand that this report's coming back and we can always make adjustments, but we're not moving backwards. We are steadfast, we're progressive, we're integrating as we need to and adjusting if and as necessary. So that's all, Chairman. I just wanted to state that in appreciation to District 4 and them taking this on.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Patty. All right, don't see anybody else in the queue. And just a quick question. I want to clarify, VCA would take away our neighborhood polling locations, correct, and centralize it?
It would centralize it to 40 locations instead of the 178 that we currently use.
So, you know, it was mentioned about the transparency, what we're doing here today. I mean, I don't know how much more we can be transparent. I mean, we had a meeting on February 28th and we talked about the VCA. We said, okay, hey, come back in 6 months, go through the election advisory committee, in which we did. And in June and August and September, we've had more meetings. I mean, that's transparency, and it's all been in public. So the transparency side, I think, is great, right? And then they were talking about barriers. Somebody mentioned barriers, and make sure we don't have any barriers or reduce barriers. Isn't this exactly what we're doing? I mean, instead of taking away polling location and just centralizing with VCA, we're expanding it through different neighborhoods. So because somebody was, I heard somebody was saying that, you know, hey, the board is taking away polling locations. And of course, you know, the election's coming up here next year, so you're going to hear crazy stuff, right? Now, that's the opposite of what is going on. We're expanding it. And I like the idea, we're expanding access, and we are expanding voting opportunities. And I just think it would be, I mean, I like to know where that stat came from, that 15%. Is that because they took away neighborhood polling locations and then you only had, or reduced it, and then you only had one VCA or the centralized location? So of course you're going to see an increase. I mean, I'd just be interested in seeing that, because you would think that if you have more locations in neighborhoods right around your home, you could walk over there and drop it off or whatever. So you're expanding access. So it just seems odd to me.
I think, and just to be, you know, honest in my opinion, but this is my opinion, I think it's the number is kind of inaccurate because of this. We're San Joaquin County. We're not Los Angeles County. We're not Orange County. We're not Shasta County. We're none of these counties. So to take all the numbers across all 58 counties and say, hey, this is the average, is that really average when you're looking at San Joaquin versus Los Angeles County? I don't know that that's fair, but this is data straight off the Secretary of State's website, and so I wanted to share with you what they're putting out there. So that's where that number came from. I know for our county, we were at like a 5% turnout, and it wasn't very much of it wasn't a good turnout for our last two elections. But I think, again, with what Supervisor Ding has been diligent about is, you know, I don't know it's so much about adding more polling places as it's saying, hey, we have polling places, guys. This is not COVID anymore. We're not doing what these other 30 counties are doing. Something to keep in mind, and I think where the Secretary of State could go with pushing this to be like all statewide is because all of our neighboring counties are Voters' Choice Act. So if you go vote, and if you live in Stanislaus County, you go to vote centers and you do the 11-day thing. When you come to San Joaquin County, you just have 1 day voting. You go to Sacramento, it's the 11-day voting. And so I think there could be a reason why we're experiencing a low turnout, because sister counties are doing it differently. There's so many things that factor into it, but I think just going straight down the line, like Supervisor Ding said, let's advocate like, hey, you can vote in person too. We have these 78 locations. Yeah, we post them to our website. Well, every day on our social media, we can post, hey, we put this out there. Our stuff is on our website. If you need to know your polling place, call us. With the drop boxes that we are now purchasing, I'm going to put a banner at the bottom of those that say, you can drop your ballot in this box, but if you still choose to vote in person, please check your voter information or contact our office and we'll tell you where you can go vote in person if you choose. So I think it's just campaigning that so people know that there's an option. And I think with the changing of the guard that has occurred with our ROV office, there hasn't been an emphasis on doing that. And so I think that's where we are. And then for the hybrid model, you were saying VCA, what's the difference? Right now, VCA allows for that ballot on demand, and any voter can go to any polling or any vote center and they can get the correct ballot. But there's nothing in the law that says that I can't just do that at a polling place. And that's what I'm looking into. I'm not going to implement that for March, but we're reaching out to the state and we're seeing if we could do that. So traditional polling place with all the positive, innovative things that could help voters and assist them to where they're not turned away is what I'm proposing and what I'm looking into currently.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. I mean, hey, for what's proposed here, again, you know, we have drop boxes, we have mail, we have in-person, neighborhood polling locations. I mean, I think are traditional. I think that a lot of people are used to that. It reduces lesson barriers, expands access, expands voting opportunities, and so I'm all for that. So just to let the board know, we've been on this topic now for almost an hour. So Supervisor Canepa?
I just have one more comment. I don't know that, I mean, I appreciate Supervisor Ding and Nicole for the committee. I mean, I don't know that closing the door is a necessity at this point. I think we're going to do our own model. I mean, so I don't know if we do table this, or, I mean, if it's important to just say no to voter choice. So it's up to you. But I mean, I think going forward, I mean, I think you leave every option available. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Seeing nobody else in the queue, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, you're absolutely right. Unless we pulled it, in which we didn't. All right, we're still on consent, and we'll move on to item number 7. That was Supervisor Canepa.
Thank you, Chair. So on this one, I wanted to, I don't know, I mean, we discussed it that one day, and I don't know that removing public servants because it's going to be the chair's responsibility to do it. I think you leave that in there personally. I mean, if something happens to a county employee, and I think if it's the chair's ultimate decision to do it, I think, you know, when you close the door on certain things that have already been in there, and it's the chair's discretion whether or not they want to do it, I think the public servants might be left in it. But that was my 2 cents on that one. So that was my question. And going forward, you know, if it's the chair's opinion to whether or not to do the flag at half staff, if you're limiting it too much, if you take out public servants, is the question.
Okay, that was a question for. That's a discretion of the board. I know we had that discussion, I think, last time, and why it was so limited is I know Supervisor Ding had some concerns. Public servant, what is the definition of a public servant? Public servant can be, I mean, it could be anything, to be honest with you. So instead of limited, we're just expanding it, and I could see, so yeah, I mean, for me, it's limited, and I think it addresses the concerns of some individual board members. And again, we still follow state and federal guidelines. It's just so general, that term public servant, and that's my concern with that. So that's just my 2 cents. Is anybody else in the queue? And none, open up for public comment. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any further discussion? All right, move on to item number 8. And that was Supervisor Ding.
Yes, again, just going back to recognizing people that are serving on various committees. We've had a member of our Woodbridge MAC, Tia Fawn, who's known and loved in our community. She does a lot of the medical response training and so forth throughout the county. She's been very involved in our community organizations. She just moved from Woodbridge into Lodi, and so she can't serve on MAC anymore, and I just wanted to thank her for her service.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Ding. Supervisor Canepa.
Wondering how we pull 6 and 7 to do opposite our votes guys having
Well,
it on?
you can just ask to pull it.
Okay. 6 and 7.
So we'll pull items 6 and 7. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We're still on item 8. Yep, on item 8, seeing nobody else in the queue, open it for public comment. Anybody from public wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing none. All right, move on to item number 13. That's Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm wonder if we have, yes, we do, our interim deputy, the position you have, the deputy director?
Position's deputy director, and I'm acting as interim.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So what I see is the memorandum of understanding, but I think what would be great is if you could maybe share what's that plan of action look like if in a flood environment and situation. And I remember when I was first year up, we had floods coming in, and people are calling me like, well, what are we doing about the livestock? I'm like, well, I don't know. I really had no clue. And I'm like, go to high ground. I had no idea that the county actually does have a plan. So regretfully, I was without any information in any capacity for several people that had called, and to my embarrassment, really. But so I'd love to maybe share what is the plan of action as it relates to perhaps a flood situation.
Sure. Good morning, Supervisors. So this kind of came together out of the January-December storms. We started to see a lot of really that ag land in South County. And we were approached by Hold Your Horses, which is an organization originally out of Contra Costa County, and they do emergency evacuations for large livestock. So they approached us, wanted to know if we needed assistance, and originally at the time, we didn't see the need for it. However, as things progressed, we started seeing those South County levy issues and so on. Worked with the Sheriff's Department and Ag Commissioner's Office, and really worked with this group kind of as an ad hoc to start with. During these storms, and really saw what they could do. They get a lot of training as an official organization from CAL FIRE, and they do a lot of the FEMA and ICS courses on their own to make sure that all of their staff understand what the rules are. They don't self-deploy, they wait for a call from us. And they will either assist in actually bringing out trailers and putting a call out to get people to a specific area to start loading animals and move them out, or they will assist for people who are doing self-evacuations and getting their animals out and helping with a large animal evacuation center like we had at the fairgrounds. So they'll kind of help us twofold in that, and they come with that training. They'll start doing our exercises, participating in those events, and really working with them on a regular basis to make sure that they understand what we need in this community and how they can help, and really to grow their organization, have local community members involved as well. So
they're going to have transport vehicles and trailers and a destination. You mentioned currently the fairgrounds would be.
This last year we did the fairgrounds. We have the ability, if we have to, at the Lodi Grape Grounds. We're looking at some additional locations. They have some private ranches and farms. I believe Manteca Unified or Manteca High School offered some of their property for large animals as well. So we have lots of places now to be able to put the animals, and we have this organization that will assist in transporting them. I do know Sheriff's Department is working on some transport vehicles as well and some trailers. So in combination with all of that, we're hoping that we can meet the needs of the community next time we have a major emergency.
I think my last question, what would those needs be? Let's say, are you looking at you could evacuate and relocate 200, 500, 1,000 animals in, within a week, or what's that look like?
So I think really what we're going to start looking at now that once the board approves this MOU is starting with the training. What does that look like? What is their normal response look like? How many people can they get? The benefit for us is our floods typically happen opposite of fire season. So they have a little bit more flexibility in that. We may be able to pull some more resources, and we're outside of some of those typical fire areas. So we have the ability to maybe pull some more community members and some more participants for that. I know that they are also recruiting for volunteers within their organization and getting them trained. So as we can move forward and get this information out there, hopefully we can keep recruiting and build that capacity. I think what we had looked at during the storms, and I could be wrong, I'd have to have my staff verify, I think we were able to do a couple hundred animals within a 48-hour period. Just depending on the size of the animals, what kind of trailers we have at that point and where they're going to be going, what the turnaround time would be.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much. I thought it was important to kind of share that. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you. Seeing nobody else in the queue, open up for public comment. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, bring it back to board. No, hey, great job. Again, once again, being proactive, getting ahead of the curve instead of waiting to the last minute and when we had the floods or fires or whatever. So excellent job. All right, so that's consent item. So what we're going to do, we're going to vote on consent items 1 through 21 minus 6 and 7. So if I can entertain a motion on that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Going to vote. Adopted 5-0. We pulled 2, so we're going to do a separate vote for item number 6. We have a motion.
Motion to approve item 6.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All right, let's get a vote.
Showing 4-1, no Canepa.
Right, I just never seen that before, meaning that somebody who seconds it, that's perfectly fine, correct?
That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Is that an ethics violation?
Move on to item number 7.
The old days it would have been.
That was adopted 4-1. Item number 7, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve 7.
Then they wanted to die.
Second.
All right, vote please. All right, it's adopted 4-1. All right, that was a long consent. Move on to discussion items. We only have one discussion. Yep. So approve commitment of $46,712,861 to fund energy-related capital projects for fiscal years 2023, 2024 through 2025, 2026. Approve the allocation of a management analyst 1/2 in the facilities management budget, number 10142000000, and related budget adjustments and transfers. This requires a 4/5. So, Ms. Cunningham, all yours.
Good morning, Chair, board members, council, CAO. Marcia Cunningham, Director of General Services. And with me today, I have Connie Hart, Assistant Director of General Services. And we're here to present our 3-year energy-related capital improvement plan that the board requested several months ago. Before I hand it over to Connie, I'd like to give thank you to the CAO and his staff for their support. My GSD staff, Connie Hart, Ravi Al-Lura, Emma Still, and Daniel Rodriguez, and our facility staff that assisted with the needs of allowing this plan to come forth to you today. And with that, I will turn it over to Connie.
Thank you.
Hello, Connie.
Morning. As you know, on March 28th of this year, your board directed General Services to work with NG to provide full and complete access to facilities and all documents necessary for NG to conduct a countywide energy audit. Just so that you know, all documents requested were provided in a timely fashion, and staff provided NG with access to every facility requested. GSD was directed to bring back a comprehensive countywide energy services project for board consideration. For board directive, GSD facilitated access to 18 county facilities as requested by NG. Additionally, GSD provided NG with all PG&E records needed to complete their audit. On July 19th, 2023, a meeting was held with NG where they submitted their report. The county's energy manager, assisted by other GSD staff, conducted a detailed analysis of NG's report and found that cost estimates were significantly higher than anticipated. In order to validate the county estimates or the NG estimates, GSD worked with Purchasing and Support Services to issue a request for information, or RFI, requesting rough orders of magnitude, commonly referred to as ROM, for projects outlined in the NG report. I want to make sure that you understand that we did apples to apples. We didn't change any of the aspects of the proposed projects in the NG report when we submitted it out to RFI. We received submissions from 3 energy companies, and those submissions serve to validate the county ROM estimates and are used in this report. Like I said, we received 3 responses, and rather than go with the low one and further the gap between our estimates, we went with the middle one, which was basically the average of the 3, and that did validate the county estimates as being the most accurate. The NG ROM estimates are nearly double that of the validated county numbers. The table in this slide lays out the upfront cost estimates provided by NG compared to the county upfront cost estimates that were validated through the RFI process. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can read these numbers. They're quite small. As you can see, NG's ROM number for the upfront cost is $79 million for 8 solar projects, HVAC upgrades at 10 facilities, and LED lighting and other miscellaneous projects at the 18 county facilities. By contrast, the county's ROM estimates for the exact projects is only $43.3 million, a difference of $35.8 million. As you can see, the NG numbers are approximately 185% of the county numbers, or nearly double. A similar picture emerges when we take a look at the net cost after anticipated savings and rebate revenue. The net cost after the anticipated 50% in rebates and incentives is $49 million per NG's report, as opposed to the county's estimate of $26.5 million. The difference in the net cost per NG's report and the county estimates is $22.5 million. I'd like to point out that NG's report only provided for 42% in rebates and incentives, and in order to continue our comparison as apples to apples, we calculated rebates at 50% for both the NG ROM numbers and the county ROM numbers, and this is the result, the 49 and the 26.4. If we're looking at the solar projects alone, as you can see across the board, the cost estimates provided by NG are significantly higher than the county estimates. NG cost estimates came in at $29.4 million compared to the county's validated estimates of $13.2. The NG report shows an estimated cost avoidance of about $3 million per year for the solar projects, and while we agree with this number is likely correct, we're trying to be conservative, and we can guarantee a minimum of $2 million per year in cost avoidance from just these projects, these solar projects. And that's based on current PG&E rates, and as we all know, PG&E rates are going to be going up fairly significantly over the next 25 years. So we're looking at a very minimum of $50 million over 20 years, likely north of 100. When you calculate in, if we take a look at 3 million, if we use the 3 million number rather than the 2, then we'd be at 75 million over 25 years. But when we factor in cost escalations from PG&E, the cost avoidance, we don't have a crystal ball, but I would imagine it would be well north of 100, perhaps approaching $150 million in cost avoidance over 25 years. Our expected return on investment per the NG report, or the time it would take to pay for the cover the net cost with the energy savings, is 9 years when we exclude the HVAC projects. The HVAC projects are kind of an outlier and pencil out in 20, 25 years. So in order to give a good picture of what the bulk would be, we're looking at 9 years on the NG side and 5 years for the county. Obviously, you can see the gray is NG and the green is the county. And for this particular slide, the lower the bar, the better, which is kind of counterintuitive. But you can see that the various projects, 8 solar projects proposed. General Services has identified 4 additional projects that are being recommended today that were not included in the NG audit. Those are solar installations at Larch Clover, Lodi, and Thornton Community Centers, as well as a solar installation at the Hunter Street Garage for the benefit of the Canlis building. Please note that the cost estimates for the 3 community solar projects were obtained from one of the respondents to the RFI, and they are actually firm numbers. They are not just ROM numbers. Those estimates further validate the county estimated costs as being the appropriate estimates. These projects, as well as the previously discussed projects, are recommended on a 3-year timeline. Because our goal is to reach substantial completion of the solar projects by November 2025 and receive final electrical clearance in advance of the April 15, 2026 deadline for NEM 2, GSD is recommending that all solar projects be appropriated and initiated in 23-24, this fiscal year. The total appropriations needed for those 12 solar projects listed on this slide is $29.2 million and includes some administrative costs. The 24-25 budget is planned to include sufficient appropriation to complete all HVAC upgrades currently estimated at $6.8 million. However, GSD has been in consultation with one of the companies that responded to the RFI, Train, regarding the county's plan regarding HVAC replacements. Train has the ability to obtain the units at CMAS pricing, which would bring down the cost substantially. Additionally, Train recommends that we include thermal energy storage as appropriate. Then those projects would also qualify for the rebates and incentives, the same as the solar projects, thus reducing those costs by up to 50%. And the final year of the plan will include the remainder of the projects, the LED lighting upgrades and other miscellaneous energy-related projects, estimated at $10.6 million. We want you to know that we've heard your board loud and clear. Our goal is to provide opportunities to multiple smaller local construction companies to compete for this work. Therefore, GSD is recommending that this go out to RFP for construction contracts. Each proposing company, obviously including NG, is welcome to submit a proposal for the entire catalog of work or 1 or 2 or more of the individual projects. This approach will allow smaller local companies to compete. It's our desire to award several contracts so that multiple companies can be working simultaneously, which will further assist us in meeting our goal of substantial completion by the November-December 2025 timeframe. Following the RFP process, we anticipate bringing construction contracts to your board for consideration in the January-February 2024 timeframe, just in time for the construction to begin in the spring timeframe. We're going to be utilizing the period of the winter months to conduct the RFP, bring back those construction contracts, because these projects obviously can't happen in inclement weather. So it's actually lining up very, very well for us to get started on actual builds in the spring. Our funding plan for 2023, this fiscal year, includes the use of $14.4 million of capital outlay dollars for the upfront costs to be reimbursed as rebates and incentives are received. So our hope is that the use of those county dollars, the county capital outlay, will almost be using it as a checkbook, writing the check to the tune of 14.4, but then being reimbursed as those rebates and incentives, that entire 14.4. A second source of funding, we recommend the use of $5.6 million from the County Facilities Fees Fund based on the growth of the applicable departments. And the third source of funds is a use of $9 million from the Tax Resource Fund. The Auditor's Office has determined that up to $20 million is available for use from this fund. And finally, $89,136 is being requested from contingencies to cover the cost of a new management analyst position for the remainder of this fiscal year. As you can see on this slide, after adding in some administrative costs, the full increase in appropriation for 23-24 that we're requesting today is $29.2 million and will net out at 14.8 after rebates and incentives are received. Moving into next fiscal year, our 24-25 budget, the funding plan is very similar and recommends the use of $3.3 million in capital outlay funds to be reimbursed as rebates and incentive revenues are received, and recommends the use of $3.6 from the Tax Resource Fund. Your board is not approving this appropriation at this time. These amounts will be included in the 24-25 proposed budget for your consideration. As you can see, with the inclusion of some administrative costs, the full 24-25 appropriation is planned at $6.8 million and will net out at $3.6 after rebates and incentives are received. And finally, the third year of this ambitious plan, the 25-26 funding plan recommends the use of $3.6 million in capital outlay funds to be reimbursed as revenues are received, and the use of $7 million from the Tax Resource Fund, bringing the total use from this fund over the 3 years to $19.7 million. Some future energy-related projects once we get past this 3-year plan, or maybe when we get to the tail end of this 3-year plan. Expansion of electric vehicle or EV charging stations in strategic locations throughout the county. Additional solar projects at community centers. Like, as you notice, we only had 3 of the 8, so we'd want to take a look at the other 5. And other facilities as they're being built. Several are in the design stage now, as well as installation of microgrid systems where appropriate. And potentially, and we like to talk to Public Works about this, we've identified, the old Corral Hollow landfill as a potential site for a future ground mount system to bring even more solar into the mix. Some of the other related benefits, there are actually several. One of the most exciting is that San Joaquin County will be a forerunner in the state in the reduction of greenhouse gases. We estimate that the projects in this plan alone will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 6,360 tons annually. Another benefit that the county will realize is the earning of renewable energy credits, or RECs. These credits can be sold on the open market to bring in more revenue to the county. The full magnitude of this revenue is unknown at this time, but it may be substantial. And finally, with a very short 5-year return on investment, the county will be in an excellent position to weather future downturns in the economy, and it also provides a hedge against the inevitable rises in PG&E rates. Recommendations before your board today, and I apologize, there are many of them, so bear with me as I go through. I believe there are 7. At this time, we have 7 recommended actions for your board's consideration. GSD recommends that the board approve a commitment of 46.7, not appropriation, commitment $46.7 million, with a net cost of $25.4 million to be used over 3 fiscal years for the installation of energy-related projects. Number 2, approval of an increase in appropriations in the 23-24 facilities management budget in the amount of $28.8 million for solar installation projects at 8 county facilities. You recall that 12 county facilities. That was the 8 county facilities as recommended by INGE, plus the 4 recommended by General Services. Number 3, approve the transfer of $14.4 million from the capital outlay fund to the facilities management budget. Number 4, approve the transfer of $5.6 million from the county facilities fees fund to the facilities management budget. Number 5, approve the transfer of $9 million from the tax resource fund to the facilities management budget. Number 6, approve an increase in appropriation and the transfer of funds from the contingency provision budget in the amount of $389,136 to the facilities management budget for costs associated with the addition of a management analyst for the remainder of the fiscal year, the costs associated with that, and for costs associated with bringing in an outside consultant for construction management services, and to approve the allocation of that management analyst in the facilities management budget. Chairman Rickman and members of the board, this concludes our presentation. Marcia Cunningham, Ravi Aluru, and myself are available to answer any questions you may have.
All right, well, thank you both. We'll bring it back to the board, and Vice Chair, you're first on board.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for that presentation. So, in a nutshell, if we were to go with NG, what is the cost that what is the cost that we're saving not going with NG?
I'm sorry?
What is the number that it's going to cost us to go with NG versus not going with NG?
Got it. The total upfront cost per the NG report is $79 million.
Okay.
Our estimate puts it at 43.3, so we would save $35.8 million in the upfront costs. The net, you want me to give you the net as well?
Sure.
Okay. The net cost after receiving the rebates of up to 50% that we calculated on both would put the net under NG at $49 million or 26.5 for the county estimates.
Okay. Can I have Mr. Ashu come to the podium, please? Sure.
All right, and Vice Chair, is this just for question and answer? If you have a statement or something, we can do that afterwards in public comment, okay?
Okay.
So we can move along.
Just wondering, do these numbers add up? Is that right? Is that correct? 26.5 million? Is that what's going to cost the county?
Thank you, Mr. Ulipadua. Good afternoon, Board Chairman Rickman, members of the board, staff, Ashu Jain with NG. To answer your question, I didn't go through all the details of all the numbers, but suffices to say that the staff believes that we are almost double the cost. There might be some disagreement on numbers, but I don't know if they included the cost of $13 million of battery storage. I'm not sure about that, but I do recognize that what staff is saying is that our cost for the solar project is roughly double the cost that they calculated or found out. And I would like to address that if that's...
that'd be great.
Great, thank you. So the foundation of these cost estimates is the RFI that the county did. And here's what if I'm trying to, trying to be very, put it in layman's terms, let me tell you what the county did. They sent let's say you wanted to build a house. The county sent a picture of a house and said it's 3,000 square feet. Give us your price for this house. And they sent it to all the contractors. 3 contractors come back and said it is this, this, and this, and the county said the middle one's fine. That is essentially what the RFI said. And on the top of that, the RFI said,
But we will never contract with you based on this. It's all in the RFI. So the RFI said, here's the kilowatt of the solar project. Here are the pictures that we provided, the layouts. Please give us your price, rough order of magnitude. And by the way, this is not a solicitation. We will not contract with you based on this. What kind of numbers do you think, are you going to, what kind of trust do you have in the numbers that came back? It's, I don't know anyone who can say these numbers are reliable. They never visited the site. There was no engineering done. There was no site walk. It was just literally send an email, get a response back. Is that reasonable, you think, in shooting down? And we gave feasibility level numbers. These were not even our last and final numbers or anything like that. These were just a feasibility study. The board directed staff to engage us to do a feasibility study. We expected staff to present that feasibility study to the board, and then the board would make a decision, hey, we want to go forward with this project or that project, and then we will do the engineering and come back with a final proposal. We were completely blindsided when staff, they told us that we will present the whole feasibility study on September 26th, and then they later changed their mind about that. And they, it was completely, they changed the whole paradigm and said, and this is, they said, oh, we're going to, just go and get an RFI and some prices, and instead of, having the board provide input on what projects the board is interested in, if they would have checked our price at the later stage, I would understand. And a lot of, we are the largest energy services company in the state. We have done more projects for California counties than anyone else. We are the largest renewable energy company in the world. We have tremendous purchasing power. We did more solar. You can go to CPUC website. We have done more solar in 2022 than any non-residential solar, because we don't do residential. We've done more solar in 2022 than any other company in the entire state. We were number one. Do you think we can survive with twice the cost? We can survive doing this business, being the largest in the business and doing all this work with counties, if we were twice the cost? It just doesn't make sense. When you approach energy companies and say, give us a ballpark, rough order of magnitude price, they can all see on the county website, that is NG, and they will lowball it because they have no commitment to that number. They'll lowball it so that they can get in the game, and that's exactly what happened. So I can still keep going on, but I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Supervisor Viapudua, can I respond to?
Sure.
Thank you. First of all, NG's report was not placed on our website, so it was not open to the public. It was only held in our office. Like I said earlier, it was apples to apples. We took everything exactly the same as proposed by NG and put that out to RFI, and did request rough order of magnitude, which is exactly what NG had provided, was their rough order of magnitude. They've not done the full engineering either. It's completely equal footing, and I don't know if the other companies knew about NG's report. They may have if they'd checked the board minutes and videos from the past. But be that as it may, we didn't want to rely solely on what our energy expert had anticipated based on his many, many years in the field and his level of expertise. He had a number that seemed that we were anticipating. And when this was so high, that's the only reason that we went out to RFI. Had NG been in the ballpark, it would have been a different situation. We were faced with having to validate the numbers in order to bring back to your board for recommendation the most cost-efficient way to proceed. And that's why we went out to the to the marketplace to receive these rough orders of magnitude. And the other thing is that if, like I said, with the RFP, NG is more than welcome to submit their proposal and perhaps earn one or all of these contracts. When they dial down, like Mr. Jane said, when they dial down and do a very, very detailed proposal in response to our RFP, then they very well may be in the ballpark. But we want to make sure that your board is proceeding, that you have all of the information to proceed in the best fashion possible. Plus, there's the added benefit of going out to RFP, being these contracts being available to some of our local smaller companies. One other thing that wasn't in my presentation that I will share is we're exploring the idea, and probably going to do this, purchasing 12,000 solar panels up front rather than having these companies have to include the procurement of those panels in their RFP. That'll make this even more available to the smaller local companies, while at the same time ensuring that we have a consistent product for maintenance going forward, that we're dealing with one solar panel all the same. So while some of these numbers are all valid, they may actually even be less because of that one procurement aspect as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart.
Supervisor or Vice Chair, you good? All right, thank you. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. So let me understand this. So the ROM numbers are kind of a ballpark. That's correct?
Yes.
So I'd like to talk to ask a question through the chair for Mr. Ravi about the ROMs. Connie, I know you just said that our own expert,
yes,
Mr. Ravi, had an anticipated cost, and NG's came in different, so that's why you went out to get additional numbers. So, Mr. Ravi, are we to believe that, I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples, can you substantiate and validate that NG is twice the cost of what the market would actually be?
I am almost certain. Personally, I have experience doing solar projects for the Air Force and the Navy. I've been a subcontractor to Shaw Group, which is part of CBNI. Also done work for Kiewit. Most of my projects have been in the East Coast on the Navy bases and Joint Base. At that time, the rates for solar were around $6 a watt, our costs for similar projects. And to give you an example, Solar City was charging $12 a watt. This was prevailing wage, Davis-Bacon, all things being equal. I went and did some checking with the carport manufacturers, Baja, and other leading manufacturers. And basically what I got back was, okay, your per square foot cost, because its prevailing wage is about $20 to $40. Not per watt, sorry, per square foot. You translate that into per watt numbers, you may be spending $2 at the high side per watt. There's another dollar in a 1500 volt system. It comes to $3, which is half the cost. And we're only talking solar right now. We did not request any RFI information on either the HVAC systems or the LED. So that's when I said, my estimate's coming around 30 million. What do you want to do? And the recommendation was, all right, let's go out and get the RFI. And those numbers were actually ranging from 22 million to 35 million. The middle number was actually right on the money where I had estimated it. Again, these are numbers that I'm comfortable with, but it's just, I'm trying to protect the county. That's about it.
Well, and we all have a fiscal responsibility, and I appreciate looking at that. I'm just, I mean, I'd have to ask Mr. Jain, what is as your company does bids, if you're doing the work that you're doing, I see in your scope of this proposal, all the counties and municipalities that you do work for, what's your company normally operate at a profit margin of? I mean, I cannot imagine you're going to be competitive if you're coming in at 150% higher than the market. How do you guys, your company, when you drill down into an actual cost, when you're going to put in a final bid, how do you estimate what your cost? Because we know there's a supply chain. We know that there's, what you may have bought and what you're looking at and prices you have at one point in time. I don't know how current that is because we know there's market fluctuations as available, when available, and that's when you're going to put in a bid that's going to be binding it at some point. What's the profit margin that you guys look at for us to have now in front of us a narrative that you are 100% higher? I don't think it's 185. It says 100%. If you're 40 million, if you got 40 million and you got 80 million, that's 100% difference, not 185%. So I don't know if that's a true. I'm not good at my
85%. 100% would be the exact same number. 185 is nearly.
100% more.
More.
100%.
85% more.
So it's 85% more.
And the other question is, are you self-performing the work or are you subcontracting?
Right, understood. So, Mr. Jain, could you identify for me our disparities here?
Right, as far as your question about profit margin, generally energy services companies charge around 10 to 12% overheads, 5 to 10% margin. That's the profit margin, and that's after all the project-related costs are calculated, which is, the cost of the panels, the inverters, structural, electrical, project management cost, and all of those other construction management. On top of that, around 10 to 12% for overheads, which are fixed charges that are not allocated to projects, plus around, roughly 5 to 10% margin. So that's roughly around, 15 to 20% of the cost of the project is in overheads and profit margin. That's pretty typical in the industry. I haven't come across any sizable company that is different from ours.
And do you have any recent bids that you've done in the state of California that you've put in the ROM numbers, and then you've actualized and drilled down in the actual cost? And have you seen a major disparity?
Like I mentioned, we did more solar projects than any other company in 2022. That's not according to NG, but it's according to CPUC. So, again, and we compete on projects all the time. So so we're competitive. We have the largest buying power, and I can also, just because the county mentioned this and I wasn't aware of it about buying solar panels, and this has nothing to do with, you're welcome to buy solar panels, but you're not going to get it cheaper than we are. There's just no way that a direct end customer can buy 12,000 solar panels. We buy 10 megawatts a month. That's 100,000 panels a month. There's no way the county is going to procure even double our price. It's just not going to happen. We know the solar panel manufacturers inside out. There are actually utility scale companies that buy 10 times of what we do. We have to get in line behind them, actually. So it's a completely different world out there on solar panels. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Fact is that we are competitive. We charge a fair amount. And if you look at any energy company, they have the same business model as far as subcontracting. There's none of the big companies I know are hiring, have the labor in-house to install panels and do the wiring. It's not the business model that happens in this industry.
So you subcontract to local?
We subcontract, we buy everything, we subcontract. We try to do it to local labor. We've used, in York County, we've used an electrical contractor. The name starts with a C.
Collins
Electric. So we've used them in the past for our Placer County project. We use them. So we hire local contractors as much as we can, subcontractors.
And they submit a bid to you to do the work.
And we are very transparent with our customers. We'll bring everyone's bids to staff and say, staff, which one do you, here are our bids, if you have a preference. Because Government Code 4217 allows us to negotiate, allows the county to negotiate with us and us to negotiate with our suppliers. So we can always choose anyone.
So I have a question. Just digressing for a moment, when we were at our last board meeting, there was a deadline, like a 2-week deadline,
right.
And we had said, look, work with General Services so we can meet for an application process to trigger, I guess, the qualification for some of the jobs. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's something I like the board to be aware of, that, as you know, I've been trying to do business with the county for the last 25 years. And, again and again, I've come to the county in front of the board, in front of staff, and I've been told, we're on top of this thing. We're on top of energy efficiency. We're on top of renewable energy. We don't need anyone. We can handle it in-house. We filed 300 applications for net metering before April 14th. We were very selective on which customers we filed applications for, because if you don't file the applications, your savings will be, $50 million less, and I'm just picking a number, but it'll be in tens of millions over the life of the project. We prioritized the county and filed the application within 2 weeks, and it was not something that that staff would have done on its own. You did not have the capability in-house or the capacity. We still were addressing technical questions on the applications months after we submitted them. Yes, the county worked with us, county staff worked with us, but there is no way these applications would have been filed without our help. No other solar company came and said, hey, we'll do this for you. We're the ones who stepped up, made it happen.
What would be the net value of that effort on behalf of San Joaquin County? That's tens of millions of dollars that you guys initiated and would help us procure?
I can try and estimate it.
Just ballpark.
Yeah. I would say roughly around $35 to $40 million over the life of the project.
Thanks to NG's efforts, $35 to $40 million.
Yes.
Got it. So I have a question on this proposal, this outline that I'm able to review. It says create over $130 million in net savings after paying for all costs over the life of the program. So in today's, what's being proposed, or from what NG is proposing, are we out of pocket any money, or is NG covering the costs in your proposal to the county? What's the difference here versus what the county's talking about doing, about basically buying solar panels and subcontracting out to small companies, letting them bid on it and such? But from what I'm reading, it says create over $130 million in net savings after paying for all costs over the life of the program.
Yeah, so we had given an option for financing the projects, which we don't care how the projects are financed. So the $130 million, so the $130 million was in case the county pays cash for the project. And our price at that time for a much larger scope was $79 million. We were saying that not only will you recover that 79, but you'll save 130 million on top of that over the life of the project. So it's a very attractive project. In our first year savings were around $4.5 million a year. And we guarantee the savings.
Mm-hmm. So you guys were proposing that we don't go out of pocket any money and that it's financed through the installation, the savings, and
there is that option. We presented that option to the county that the county can borrow the funds and you will never be out of pocket because your lease payment and any O&M cost will be much less than the savings. The county choosing not to do that. They want to pay cash for it. And again, to us, it doesn't matter whether you pay cash or whether you finance it because we are not in the business of financing projects.
What do most counties or jobs of this spectrum, what do they mostly do? Do they self-finance or do they go through NG and let NG put the upfront costs?
Again, NG doesn't. Well, to answer the first part of your question, I can't recall a single county that decided to pay cash for the whole project. But again, there's nothing wrong. I mean, we love the fact that the county has the cash to do it. That's great. So there's nothing wrong in paying cash. If the county has cash, yeah, that's great. But I can't recall a county that did that. Mostly the county would have us do a project, take that project cost, do an RFP, get a financing partner, usually hire a financial advisor to arrange the financing, and then we'll make sure that our savings are much higher than the finance cost. That's usually how it works. But again, we'll still have the same guarantees in place, guaranteed savings. And if the county chooses to pay cash, that's great.
Got it. Well, I know that we've got a very busy docket of construction and needs for facilities. Is that correct, Ms. Cunningham? We've got a lot of buildings and a lot of things. We have an old courthouse to take down. We've got new construction, a lot of things that cash is king. I mean, it's great to have money on hand versus if you have an option to offset and not go cash out of hand, that gives us a greater well and the depth for new construction on buildings that we might be going out in the market as interest rates go higher and higher. I like the idea that we're offsetting and able to keep and retain a lot of that, those expendable dollars for capital improvement. Do you see it different?
I do. So we watch financially very carefully and work closely with the CAO on how we're paying for our projects because we want to not only think about short term, but like you said, long term. I think if you look at our five-year capital program, you'll see that we're at this point haven't proposed to borrow any money for the very reason of we're in the situation we're in with building and constructing new buildings because we went over a decade where we weren't building buildings. So we don't want to create a situation where our hands are tied and we're not able to do the things that we need to do. Because after our 5-year plan, there's, of course, other things that need to be done from a construction. And same thing with solar. If you can get a 3 to 5 year return on your investment where you're gaining capital funds, why would you not do that as opposed to spread it out long term? Because we know that from an economy perspective, numbers go down, we get in tougher economic situations, and so it's a careful strategic plan, and we're constantly looking at how to fund and what to do with the numbers. I would say the other point to that would be was to find the most cost-effective way if we're going to utilize outsized funds that we do that maybe it's via bonds, maybe it's another avenue to go, but we would look for the most cost-effective means to utilize outside funds outside of this organization. If I could clarify a couple things, when we did the NIMS 2, the comment was made that NG offered to do it. As we were going through the progression and having the discussions with energy, we also had made reference in that same meeting they were given that the board asked for that to be made available for them to do it. We could have done that also ourselves, and we really were not entertaining any other outside energy companies. We were not pursuing that.
But did NG help you complete that process, or you did it all in-house?
No, from the boards, what the board asked us to do by the board appointed authority, that's what your board asked for.
If the board didn't ask for that, then you think
We could have,
in-house?
100%.
We would have done all that?
100%. Yes, absolutely, positively. Also, I want to say, I am 100% confident that our county numbers that got figured out through GSD, I feel 100% confident that we are in the ballpark with our numbers. And I think the beauty of what we brought here to this board is NG has every opportunity in the world. They can respond to the RFP, so they can fine-tune their numbers. I can't tell you where we're going to end up and who's going to get the work, but they have that opportunity. They say they're the best. They can cut the best pricing. That was just a guesstimate on their part. Well, they have the same opportunity that our local vendors or any other vendor would want to do, and to submit their proposal to us. So it's a win-win all the way around. We've heard our board say how important it is that local gets included. I think this does provide more opportunity to local. So we really tried to be as fair as we possibly could. I know we even gave NG several times, asked them to redo their numbers. When we looked at the percent of what we could get back from the credits, their credits were, I think, 42%. Ours was 50%. We went ahead and used 50% for NG. So we did everything we could to do a fair comparison. And again, the beauty of what we're bringing to you, nobody loses. They can submit an RFP to it. To me, they probably have the best advantage out of anyone right now.
Okay.
Supervisor Patty, can I just add one little tiny piece to that?
Certainly.
You are speaking to the beauty of financing, and when cash is tight, I 1,000% agree with you. At this point, as you saw in the procurement plan, in the funding plan, we have resources that don't tap into the regular general fund and only use the capital outlay fund as a pay but then reimburse. But that savings, according to the NG report, if we were to go with financing, the total financing costs over the life of the 25 years, actually I think it's 20 years that we would actually pay on that, is $86 million that we would, by not going out to financing and not spending that $86 million, that's the additional savings that we would have by not utilizing financing, paying for it as we go. And as Marcia said, that's the beauty of using the RFP process, which we're already that's already being developed as we speak with purchasing, so that our hope is, if your board approves this today, we'll be able to hit the ground running with that RFP. And like I said, utilize these inclement weather months to get all of that done, get the engineering done, and be ready to hit the ground when we hit spring. And like I said, NG is absolutely more than welcome to submit. We actually anticipate that they would, and can narrow in those numbers and give us actual cost estimates.
And so you're proposing that this is all broken down to small projects versus a company like NG that's done a feasibility study and kind of an analysis. They want to come in with and look at it as a giant job proposal and do all the work.
The RFP is being fashioned where companies can submit one proposal for the entire catalog of work, all 12 solar projects, which are the 8 that they proposed plus the 4 that we've added. or they can propose for one or two or whatever the capacity of the company is. I would anticipate that if NG submit a proposal to the RFP, it would be for the entire catalog of work. And there may be others. We'll just have to wait and see.
All right, and Chairman, I know I've asked a lot of questions. I have one final question for NG. Why do counties go sole source? Why do some counties go directly to NG and you do the work instead of piecemealing it or putting it out on an open RFP? What's the advantage, and what would be lost or gained by going that approach?
So I would say 90% of the counties do sole source. Rarely, I just remember like Placer County did a competitive RFP, and we won that project. We were the lowest responsible. We are doing a $44 million project for Solano County that was sole source. $30 million for Tulare County, sole source. I can keep naming them. Pretty much every project that we have listed in your presentation has been sole source. And the reason for that is it takes a lot of time and effort to put these proposals together. And staff doesn't have the bandwidth to do it. And it's us who go in and do all the work, the feasibility level and all that to convince the county to move forward. These are not mission critical projects. So counties don't have the bandwidth to do it, and they just partner with a company, a good company, and then we are willing to do open book pricing. And that's how these projects get done. Now, it's okay for staff to...
Pricing, what define, you're willing to do open book
pricing? We'll be willing to show staff and board all our subcontractors' proposal, all our vendors' proposal, and we'll be transparent on the pricing. So that's what we do with every county. We are not cutting a special deal for San Joaquin County. So the fact is that, it takes a lot of time and effort. And if the county truly wants to do an RFP, a true RFP, they would have to do a lot of the investigation that we've already done in the last 6 months. They'll have to come up with detailed plans, file the interconnection applications and all of that. And we did that, and I maintain that we did not the county does not owe us anything at this point. We did it at our cost, fully knowing the risk that we are taking. So there is a lot of upfront cost that goes into hiring an engineering company and doing all this. And counties don't want to spend that kind of money on developing these projects. And then, when you do an RFP, I know it's the lowest responsible bidder, but you get all kinds of companies who will be lower cost. That's why we don't respond to most of the RFPs that we get, because, there's always this company who will just, they don't know what's going on in their company, but they could just throw a number and, they can buy a project. We don't want to invest months and months into RFPs and be the second highest or second lowest or something like that. It's just a different ball game that we choose not to play into, because RFPs is literally, it's just, finding the lowest priced contractor no matter what. I mean, and then you end up with, the problem with that is, unlike us, when we do a partnership, we take on all the risk. Now you have a consultant, a contractor, and an O&M contractor, and they're all fighting with each other about the performance of the project. With us, it's one stop. If you have a problem with the design, it's us. If you have a problem with the construction, it's us. And if you have a long-term problem with guarantees, with operation and maintenance, it's us. There's no finger pointing. So to take care of all of that, counties decide it's too much of a risk, too complicated, it's not that easy a project. They just partner with the company and go with it.
Thank you very much. Chairman, thank you. I know that was lengthy, but there was important questions.
All right, thank you. Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to thank this board because you have tasked General Services time and time again to do the impossible. I think you could ask another county how many of them have a fantastic live 5-year capital improvement plan and are doing the projects that are happening with 6 staff members. I think it would be unheard of, but because of the support of this board, the support of the CAO, the financing, the energy, the strive that you've given General Services, we are delivering. I promise you this is the same. I bet you can't go to any county in the state of California who has a 3-year comprehensive energy plan that will allow their county to meet not only 2030 green emissions and green gas requirements of the state, but also to 2045. And I believe we're going to put us on the map, and I think that we should get the governor to come here and tote what if we end up doing this. And again, and it can be NG. We're going to use most qualified. We have to use most qualified on something this substantial and have NG bid on it. And it's a win. This is something we need to be proud of. We keep getting asked to do more and more, and General Services keeps bringing our board more and more than what any other county. I guarantee you could not go to any other county and find a 5-year capital improvement program, nor found a 3-year energy program that's implementing across the board and has the potential for the savings that we brought to you today. And I have complete confidence that we can do what we're saying we're going to do.
All right,
you have my word.
Chairman, that's why they're paid the big bucks, because they get the job done.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
NG, I'm sorry, you don't have nobody asking you questions right now. If you want to talk, we'll have public comment coming up here in 1 second, okay? Don't see anybody else in the queue, so I'm going to open up for public comment. NG, if you want to, you have 3 minutes. Anybody from the public wish to address this board, you can do so. You have 3 minutes. So there you go.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Sorry. I didn't realize. No, I just wanted to make one more point, and that is, net energy metering does have a deadline. The project has to be completed by April of 2026. That seems like it's a lot of time, 2.5 years from now, but it really isn't, because PG&E could take anywhere from 6 months to a year to interconnect facilities. Large switchgear has delivery times of 12 months. So even though you might think there's a lot of time, so I just want you to be aware that there is urgency here. If you don't meet the net metering deadline, you're going to lose $35–40 million. So that's the only point I wanted to add, that there is urgency, and going through the entire bid process and all that does take time. So that is another downside of moving ahead with that process. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Doug Walker. I'm with Train US Inc., and we are an energy services company. And it's interesting because we were spoke of how would another company respond to the IOR that was put out. The IOR was actually very specific. Ravi was attentive on answering questions. We had 6 different project developers in a very short amount of time respond to the IOR. And so from the comment of what kind of response would you get, you got a very detailed and good response of what a good street price should be if we went into a bidding situation on this project. We went back through the board meetings. We knew that NG was involved already with the board and with the county, so we knew what type of costs we would see. What I'm seeing is someone who got caught trying to make large margin on someone that they've been working with for years, trying to come in, and now the dancing shoes are on. So Energy Services Company have the same model. We have the same makeup of how we go about doing our businesses. And the reason why you'll see counties use financing as an option is because typically you don't have the support services who know what they're doing. It's been very interesting working with staff, and I'm agreeing with the comments made and the promises being made. This staff knows what they're doing. They are doing an excellent job, and probably more than any other entity across the state of California in my 35 years of doing this that I've ever seen. So it's interesting working with them. I don't know how we're moving forward. As we tried to ask questions of where this stands, we were told come to the board meeting, so I am hearing all of this for the first time. Very upbeat, promising, and wanting for the best, and it's been very interesting to just see a bunch of tap dancing going on. I have a bunch of other notes that I could share, but I think that's the main point I wanted to make for you at this point. As another energy services company, you have great staff doing a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else like to address the board on this agendized item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify something. I've heard there was reference made to the approach being one in which you had to award to the lowest qualified bidder, which is customarily called design bid build. My understanding is that General Services intends, with respect to this project, if the board approves it, to go with something called design build, meaning we utilize a procurement process in which we use best value method as opposed to lowest qualified bidder. So I just want to clarify that in terms of what the plans are from General Services.
All right, thank you, Counselor. All right, it's back to the board, so I have Supervisor Patty up here. My screen. I have your name up.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Chairman. I have an idea to make a motion, but I'd like to call the gentleman that just spoke from train back down. I'm sorry, I didn't jot down your name. If you can please come down for a moment. And by the way, when I had Delta Cranes Company lifting train equipment was, you knew they were getting some of the best equipment out. So I appreciate train and meeting the representative in any capacity from the company. When your company puts in the bid, and I'm somewhat familiar because I know that you'll buy at certain cost and then you'll charge the customer X amount of dollars, then what would your industry, when you put in a bid, you've got a cost plus what percent?
Again, well, first off, to answer your question, my name is Doug Walker.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay. Yes. And very similar to NG, it depends on the type of project that we're doing as to what you're going to see in gross margin, overhead, profit, and very similar. We're going to see profits in the 5 to 10%. We're going to see overhead in the 10 to 15%. It varies on complexity. It varies on duration. It varies on situation, just like most companies.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was wondering. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, Mr. Walker. So, Chairman.
Anything else from anyone else before I sit down?
No.
Okay.
If we need you, we'll call you. We see you.
Get steps up and down the ramp. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to entertain a motion. Hearing, and I appreciate the diligence and the excellent work that we've done in General Services and bringing it this far. I know that for the last 7 years we've talked about energy and what are we doing, and there was timelines and there was tax credits and there was incentives, and by partnering with and having someone like NG knocking on our door and trying to move things forward, helping in whatever capacity they did, doing a feasibility study, they've taken a leap of faith with us. What I find interesting.
You have a motion there, Supervisor Patty?
Yeah, I do. So I'm just applauding and recognizing
because Supervisor Canepa is. If you want to hold on to a motion, Supervisor Canepa is up.
Well, I'll hold my motion.
All right, Supervisor Canepa.
So, can you clarify to what you said about that wasn't very clear? So, the bid process.
Sure. Traditionally, the way in which public works projects are procured is called design bid build. And under state law, we have to award those projects to the lowest qualified bidder. There is another alternative procurement process, which is my understanding of what General Services intends to do, which is called design build. And one of the things that going with the design build approach allows is for a county or a public entity, in our case a county, to not necessarily award to the lowest qualified bidder, but instead to award to the best value, to utilize the best value method, which presumably would include consideration of costs. That's always a consideration, but it wouldn't be the only thing. You wouldn't necessarily be awarding it to whoever bid lowest. And so I know there was, the gentleman from NG mentioned companies can essentially buy the bid, buy the project by just bidding low. We're not going to be utilizing that method, which would allow that gaming of the system.
So somebody can't lowball it and just come in and then get in the door?
Not if we're using the design bid build, I'm sorry, not if we're using the design build process, which is my understanding what we tend to do.
Okay. There's a lot of moving parts in this one today again, you know what I mean? And NG's done a ton of work. But I mean, when you have staff, I mean, you almost have to trust staff to a certain extent. So that's the thing, is there power in numbers, which, you know, Ashu is bringing forward with their company. But I mean, is that every company that does the same thing that they do important? Timeline, I'm hearing timeline, so can you guys make that timeline? I mean, so there's variables, and I mean, that's always the thing that I want now is report cards on how we're doing and how we're getting there. So the other question, you talked about $86 million of financing. Is that above the $50 million, so $36 million in extra cost, or a whole $86 million in extra cost because of your...
A whole $86 million in extra cost. So that would wipe out the 50, but the 50, like I said, is a very, very, very low estimate. We're probably actually, when you take into consideration, if we're talking just solar, we feel fairly confident that the annual savings based on PG&E numbers, rather than the $2 million per year, is probably likely more closer to $3 million a year. That puts us at 75 over 25 years, just using today's PG&E rates. But as rates go up, clearly that cost avoidance is going to be far north of that. Like I said earlier, don't have a crystal ball, don't know what PG&E is going to do, but I would guess over a 25-year period, we're probably looking clearly more than $100 million in cost avoidance for the 12 solar projects. And then you would have to, if financed through NG, you would have to take that $86 million off of that. Basically, it would reduce by their own report, with the financing option. And this is the primary reason that GSD, in consultation with the CAO's office, didn't want to go with the financing. That was just too high a cost in our estimation when we do have the funds available. As you may have noticed, two of the funds have rarely, if ever, been used. And so we're able to do this without hitting the actual general fund.
Quick question. So solar degradation panels obviously not going to last 25 years. So you're going to be paying something for 5 years that's outlived its useful life.
There's going to be a degradation every year, but the NG report puts the actual net savings over 25 years with the financing option just shy of $70 million because it has that financing.
Okay, we keep talking about these numbers. So we're at 70, we're at 130. What's the savings? I mean, if you guys are doing it in-house, what's the dollar amount that we're saving? Spending $50 million, a return on investment. And some of these, I wished I would have had this a little bit earlier because some of the data in here was, you know what I mean? This is kind of a big deal, and to get this the last minute, just a little bit on the alarming side.
Oh, I apologize for that.
No worries.
He just asked the savings amount. We keep on going over the same information over and over and over again. So what's the savings?
The savings, whether we do it or whether NG does it, it's going to be the same panels, the same projects. If you're asking my opinion, it's going to be in the neighborhood of 100 to 120 million over 25 years.
Excellent.
Same thing. Well, if you didn't go with the financing, if you don't go with the financing, if we just were to pay NG the nearly 80 million upfront cost to install this, the point that you would actually have paid for the installation cost is nearly double that of the county because the cost is nearly double. But the actual energy savings, it's the same systems. So it would be the same energy savings. But if you financed, you'd just knock $86 million off the top of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Any more questions? All right. So now we're to a point of a motion.
Chairman, thank you. I'm going to take a stab in it, and to Supervisor Canepa's point, there are a lot of moving parts, and I know that we need to move forward. So I'm going to throw something out there based on something that NG representative had said. I'm going to make a motion to direct staff to work collaboratively and in a timely manner exclusively with NG to implement a solar and energy efficiency project and to hire a consultant to check NG's pricing and the savings and limit NG's overheads and the profit margin to 15%. I've heard about 5%, 10%, different floating. NG has said believe they go somewhere around that 15%. I think we can get them at that. And we go with actual prices that was going to be double checked by us, our consultant. Mr. Ravi could do it. And we hire somebody on staff as General Services would like. I think we'd be very well served to move this forward in exponentially. And that's my motion.
You have a second?
I'll second motion.
All right, go ahead and vote. Did it go down? Is it on? Is the screen on? No, that's fine. Look good.
Roll call vote.
Well, let's go to roll call.
Supervisor Canepa?
No.
Supervisor Villapudua?
Yes.
Supervisor Patty?
Yes.
Supervisor Ding? Supervisor Ding?
Oh.
And Chairman Rickman?
No. So, can you go to a tally for me, please? 3-2?
That's correct.
So the motion fails. All right, do we have another motion?
A motion that we accept the recommendations by ESA.
You have a second? Once, going twice. All right, that dies for lack of a second. So, either come to an agreement or we'll accept the report and then it just dies here for now. So, are there any other motions on the table?
I would reintroduce my motion.
Your motion already failed. So, Counselor, there's no motions on the table. We'll accept the report and move on.
Correct.
All right. There you go. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to... We have closed session, Counselor. Are we expected to come back? You know what, actually... Well, we're not expected to come back on this, are we?
No, I don't expect any reportable action.
All right, then, so we're going to move to Board of Supervisor comments and committee reports. We do have closed sessions, so just almost one. Supervisor Canepa.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, too, because we went to the SJERACC conference, so we were supposed to report out lots of good information, lots of great camaraderie, learning more about South County, so that was very helpful. The Boys and Girls Club, after a 10-year hiatus in Stockton, reopened the community center. Beautiful and the Sierra Vista facility. So we also, at the DA's office, kicked off Domestic Violence Month, which is huge because, you know, giving people a voice is very important. Community Health Forum was another event. The League of California Cities was another event that I attended. The Mental Health Consortium, they had all the vendors, which was huge, so that we know who's doing what in our county. Miracle Mile Car Show was another great event. They closed out the Miracle Mile. There was a fundraiser for Lala's Foundation we were able to attend, and that was a well-attended event. And also the 2 chaplain events for the deputy sheriffs and the Stockton police officers. Went to ribbon cutting, wood-fired pizza out on Whistler and Lower Sac. They had a taco truck, and now they've got a brick and mortar, so hopefully we'll succeed. So thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Canepa. Who would like to go next? Oh, no, Supervisor Dings up. Then Supervisor Patty, you can be after him.
Just very briefly, I ran into Senator Eggman in Sacramento yesterday and expressed my congratulations to her. The governor had just signed the care courts, her legislation that she's worked on for, 5-6 years in order to advance what we're trying to do with our mental health facilities and being able to take the mentally ill off the streets for their own care. It was a huge, huge, heavy lift. So, again, my congratulations to Senator Eggman and staff.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Ding. Supervisor Patty.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I'd like to close out this meeting from my district in remembrance, and I did go to a celebration of life for Lathrop constituent and a good friend, Chaka Santos, on Sunday, October 1st. Hundreds of people in Lathrop came out to remember him as an entrepreneur, world-famous Chaka's barbecue sauce you can find on grocery store shelves, and his unique personality was really, truly bigger than life. His biggest thing was feed people, break bread, love you, and just so constantly positive. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps and was former mayor of Lathrop. Chaka truly was bigger than life and will be missed by all those that were in his company and that he held near and dear. I do want to mention that we have the diversity luncheon coming in. My office put out a message to the supervisors. I haven't heard back from anybody about buying gift cards. I know that our clerk of the board reached out as well, mentioning it, but the board has always done a basket that if someone can put it together, that would be spectacular. I know that I'm not skilled for that, but I'm committing to bringing, and if I would ask the rest of the board to be part of this, get a $25 or up to $40 gift card that we can include in a basket at the diversity luncheon, which is happening next week. Also, I was able to attend on behalf of the board, Lindy Turner Hardin's retirement after 20 years at the Child Abuse Prevention Council. When I was on their board, they went from literally about a staff of 25 to over nearly 300 people, all serving youth and adolescent issues here in our county. So we're grateful for Lindy's can-do attitude and all that she did do. And that's all, Chairman, at the time. This time. Thank you.
All right. Vice Chair, did you go?
I'm good. Thank you.
You're good. I know South County's been very, very, very busy. I'm not going to go over everything, but I know I attended the Grand Centennial Gala hosted by the Ground Foundation, and our talented students were featured, and it was a great night celebrating the arts in Tracy and the Grand Theater. The cool thing is it was a fundraiser. Kids got to sell their arts, and last week went over there and celebrated that. So it was a good way to bring art into the community and the kids to be recognized for what they do. And I know Supervisor Canepa mentioned it earlier. We both attended the San Joaquin Valley Regional Association of California Counties Fall Conference, and we were joining with county supervisors throughout the valley to discuss issues that concern us all. These include water, homelessness, economic, state and federal legislation, and several other topics. It's awesome that we're there advocating for the residents of our district and the valley as a whole. Now, in closing, I think we have all seen the horrific acts of terrorism that have taken place in Israel over the last few days, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. You know, women, children, innocent people being targeted by brutal acts of violence. It's just absolutely horrific, and you know, these acts of terrorism, and that's exactly what it is, you know, must end. You know, as chair of the board, I mean, I can say that San Joaquin County stands with Israel. With that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting to October 24th, 2023 at 9 a.m.
you